Good evening. Today is the Conservation Commission meeting for Thursday, April 2nd, 2026. We're just going to start right off with a request to amend on order of conditions from SE 83 2382 Lucas Environmental LLC for Diane Morris and Julie French. 1044 Route 28, proposed redesign of a permitted wireless communications facility and land subject to coastal storm flooding. You look like you're ready. If you introduce yourself and go from there.
Sounds good. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the commission. My name is Jeff Mason. I'm a wetland scientist and restoration ecologist with Lucas Environmental. And I'm here this evening to request to amend order of conditions for the South Yarmouth Wireless Communications Facility that's been sited at 1044 Route 28 in Yarmouth. You have a Mass DEP file number up there. Oh, there we go. You may all remember this project. We've come back for a second bite at the apple, if you will, here. About 3 years to the day. For a little project history, we originally filed an NOI back in February of 2023 for this project. Had a public hearing, like I said, 3 years ago, almost to the day. We had no comments from the Conservation Commission on that filing. And April 13th of 2023, we had an order of conditions that were issued by you folks. Just as some brief background, that original 2020 design for the wireless communication facility was sited in the Parcel Woods at 144 Route 28 in the parking, just off the parking lot of the church. It includes a 55 by 60 foot fenced compound, and the original design for the facility included a clock tower antenna. It was approximately about just shy of 120 feet above mean sea level. Site also had a stormwater facility infiltration basin that was designed in conjunction with an input from the Cape Cod Commission. And access, if you can see there, is from the yellow in the southwest corner from the parking lot of the church. What came to bear after the Yarmouth Zoning Board of Appeals did request that we reduce the visibility of the facility. In particular, they were concerned about the height and the visibility of the clock tower. So with that, we went back, Blue Sky Towers went back to the design board and revisited the design. And what we came back with here is a very similar design to the 22. It retains the 100 foot by 100 foot lease area, which you can see there. This is the yellow box. It retains a 55 by 60 foot fenced compound area that's shown in the green there. Infiltration basin hasn't changed in design at all, and access remains from the parking area of the church in the southwest corner there. What did change in order to address the ZBA's request for reduced visibility is we shifted the compound facility about 22 feet to the west, and that also resulted in going up gradient about 1 foot from the previous design elevation. And then the tower design changed from a clock tower design to a 93-foot steel monopole. Total with the antenna that are on top of that, it sits at about 96 feet above mean sea level with the new design. And then the driveway access way into the facility shifted south about 20 feet. Oh. There we go. This is the new design based on the input from ZBA. You can see the different tower there on the side is not a clock tower design. It's a typical steel monopole design that you see on most wireless communication facilities. The driveway again shifted south to the south of the compound facility. Stormwater basin is in the lower left corner. That hasn't changed in its location at all. And The tower itself, again, shifted about 22 feet to the west in the same footprint. Just a quick comparison slide here. You can see the new tower on the left-hand side versus the previous elevation that was at 22, the 2022 design. We dropped about 20 feet, a little less than 20 feet. And then on the right-hand side, you can see the revised plan in blue, and it's a little bit of a jumble, but everything just shifted slightly to the west from the red, which is the original plan design. And you can see the driveway moving to the south of the whole facility versus the red shaded area there. And again, the stormwater facility hasn't moved. It's in the same location. Just some quick site photos on the left-hand side. This is the view of looking towards the northwest at the church and the parking lot. Church is on the right-hand side. Second photo is looking at where the facility compound access driveway would be located in the corner of the existing parking lot, heading up into the trees there. On the left-hand side, that's where the entrance access way for the facility would be located, the gravel driveway, and then on the right-hand side is the wooded area where the compound's been shifted up in elevation and like I said, 22 feet to the west. Just to recap here in terms of resource areas, we don't have any BVW, bank, bordering land subject to flooding, land under water bodies or waterways, or riverfront area. No rare or endangered species habitat, no vernal pools, no areas of critical environmental concern, outstanding resource waters or wellhead protection areas. That all remains the same from the original application in 2022. Nothing has changed there. What we do have is portion of the facility remains sited within both the FEMA Zone X and Zone AE. So we do have about a 3,500, slightly larger than 3,500 square foot footprint that remains within land subject to coastal storm flowage. However, due to that shift to the west, that impact area has been reduced by about 330 feet, just shy of 330 feet from that original 2022 design and that the original OOC that was approved. Again, just to recap, the design shifts west and upwards about 1 foot, reducing about 330 feet of impact to the land subject to coastal storm flowage. Stormwater management that was proposed, same as 2022 design. Again, that was designed with the Cape Cod Commission's review and input and consistent with their regional policy plan. It has an infiltration basin that's been designed for the 25-year and 24-hour storm event, and with no impact proposed on flooding in the 100-year event. It's designed to treat the first inch of stormwater runoff through exfiltration through the bottom of the infiltration basin. 80% of all the total suspended solids will be attenuated and removed. And again, the design meets the Cape Cod Commission's policy, in particular WR 1, 2, and 4, that's looking to protect groundwater, freshwater resources, and stormwater water quality. And again, same sediment and erosion controls and construction BMPs that were proposed in the 2022 NOI. Includes construction entrance, dewatering basins, concrete washouts, and sediment and erosion control that will be maintained during construction. Just to summarize, the project will enhance the wireless service coverage for the public and emergency services. I'm sure after this past winter you can appreciate the importance of that. The new design addresses the ZBA's and the town's concerns about visibility by pushing the project about further up into the wooded lot and reducing the tower height. Again, no resource area impacts other than the land subject to coastal storm flowage. Similar to the previous application, we've been able to reduce that impact about 330 feet with a new design. Stormwater design meets the regulatory requirements consistent with the Cape Cod Commission's regional policy plan. We have construction BMPs in place, and based on this new design, we achieve the applicant's goals, provide the service, increased service area coverage, and simultaneously meeting the interests of the WPA and local bylaw. And with that, applicant Blue Sky Towers respectfully requests the commission to approve the request to amend the existing order of conditions. And with that, I will open it up to any questions or discussions might come from the commission.
Anybody have a question? Go ahead.
I just have a quick one, just for due diligence, if you will, just because the site was shifted a little bit into the existing hardscape. There's sort of an open-ended note in the documents that I just want to make sure is okay. It's in the general site work notes, and it says, all existing and active sewer, water, gas, electric, and other utilities which interfere with the execution of the work shall be removed and/or capped, plugged, or otherwise discontinued at points which will not interfere with the execution of the work, subject to the approval of blah, blah, blah. And I just want to make sure, because I don't have utility plans, that you know, there's no surprises underground that would impact, you know, excavation or just make this work a little bit more involved than what currently shows. Have all existing utilities been inventoried and
There's a utility easement, and my knowledge, those have been inventoried, and there obviously be the, you know, call before you dig requirements that are, you know, associated with new utility or infrastructure construction. My understanding that has been addressed and shouldn't be an issue as well. I should have mentioned earlier that that utility easement hasn't shifted as well. It's in the same exact location as previously approved.
okay, thank you. Thank you for a very comprehensive application.
Anybody else? Jack?
How many antennae is this supporting or could?
In terms of carriers or actual
Well,
antennas?
actual physical.
It can, I believe it can, it's got at least 3 antenna that are indicated in there. The town actually does have some RF antennas that'll be utilized by the town for emergency services and local services on the top. It is set up for multiple carriers, is my understanding. So in terms of who's going to lease space and antenna bandwidth on it, I don't have an exact number of the number of carriers, but it is designed.
Substantial number or?
I'm going to say 2 or 3. I believe the previous application had 2 communications applicants, or designed for 2 on the plans. I haven't seen that change, but
Well,
it is available. It is designed so that multiple, you know, multiple antennas can provide service for multiple carriers.
So you're thinking that it'd be a long time before this would be overloaded and you'd be back again with a bigger antenna?
Not an engineer, so I can't speak to that specifically, but my understanding is it was built with some future bandwidth in mind.
So just curious if, would that mean taller, more, another tower, or you wouldn't be able to specify?
I couldn't speak to that directly, but I don't think it would necessarily require a different or an additional tower, just a reconfiguring of the antennas that are on the
Okay,
existing tower.
thanks.
Anybody else? Have a question about the fencing?
Yes.
We would need the fencing to have some space clearance up for the floodwater possibility.
It is designed with cedar slats, so it does have ability for water to pass through it. It is not exactly flush with the ground. There is a small gap, but understood that it does have, it is designed with cedar slats and is not a solid wall.
Okay.
The detail didn't show the clearance between the slats or underneath. If you could either provide that, or I can just put a condition that there be a couple of inches between the slats. I just didn't see it on the detail, so.
Yep, understood.
Just a comment, I like the clock. I'm sorry, it's going to be gone. Was that the zoning board telling you,
It was
get rid of the
zoning
clock?
board's request, yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on that as well, where they would prefer a monopole to a clock tower is interesting. But it sounds like a very comprehensively planned
There was an
project. And I wondered where it went, because I've been on the commission for a while, and I kind of always look over and say, where's that tower? You know, but anyway, but thank you for your information.
I think the main thing was the height, request to reduce the height. And so the design for the clock tower wasn't really conducive for the smaller height, so they moved to the steel monopole.
Yeah, I guess. Okay, thanks.
Okay, I forgot to mention at the beginning of the meeting, we are both in person and then remote, so we're gonna have to do voting differently. Do you have anything else to say?
I'm all set, thank you.
Anybody in the audience have any comments or questions? Seeing none. Anybody online? Okay, so can I hear a motion to accept the order, amend the order of conditions with special conditions? So moved, Jack. Second, Paul. Christian, we're gonna vote for you first. Aye or nay?
Aye.
Thank you. And right down the line here, starting with Paul.
Aye.
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 Aye. So we're all set. Thank you.
Thank you for your time this evening. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. We'll go on. Oh, no, we won't. Until I sign this. All right, our next is a request for a certificate of compliance, SE 83-1105, Down Cape Engineering for Robert Wiggins, 61 Pheasant Cove Circle, and since this is CLC, we'll begin with Brittany.
The COC is pretty old. It was for the original development of the single-family dwelling. There have been a couple of permits and additional work done afterwards, but it's all been approved except for the boardwalk that we'll see later. So I recommend the commission issue this certificate of compliance. There's also a superseding order that they've also requested to be closed out with DEP.
All right, do I hear any questions to Brittany or anybody? I hear a motion to grant the COC?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay. We'll start again with Christian. Do you accept the COC?
Yes.
Okay, we'll start with Paul.
Aye.
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 Okay, great, thank you. That was easy.
So there's two signature sheets for this because what the top one's the COC.
Wait.
Yeah, just send the top one by itself down. Keep the folder with the bottom one.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Okay, that one goes by itself, and the second one will come down with, hopefully, with the...
Thanks.
All right, next, we have SE 83-2525, Down Cape Engineering for Ann and Robert Wiggins, 2061 Pheasants Cove Circle. Proposed addition and land subject to coastal storm flowage and buffer zone to a bordering vegetative wetland, and after-the-fact filing for a boardwalk and deck in bordering vegetative wetland of philosophy flood zone. Mr. Dan, would you introduce yourself and go from there?
Good evening, Chairman Bernstein, members of the commission. My name is Dan Ojala. I'm a land surveyor and also a civil engineer, and helping Mr. Wiggins out with permitting at 61 Pheasant Cove Circle up here in Yarmouthport. This is on the north side. The house, as you heard, was constructed some years back, and a little bit of a struggle to get through permitting at the time. I wasn't involved. But, and the owners have since changed hands, so we've got new parties involved, but it's a home with a sort of a walkout, and they're doing a small addition on the east side. If you look at note 7 on the plan, you folks had approved an application for a determination of applicability for a small bump out off the back of the garage. That's under construction now, so it's a small addition. This is a little bit bigger addition, but not much. It's on the east side. We're putting the slab up at 12.7 and matching the floor height. So it'll be FEMA compliant. It won't be quite as high as could be, but as long as it's not a substantial addition, that is allowed under the current FEMA code. So that's what they'd like to do, rather than have an awkward floor height. We're introducing a new roof drain, 6x10 drainage trench with a big strip out. There's some tougher clay soils in the area, so we're going to punch through that and get the roof roof drainage into the ground. That'll take some of the gravel drive and other areas that had been infiltrating towards the salt marsh to the north and put it in the ground. So we feel it'll be a net improvement on the property from a stormwater perspective, and swaling the ground in the back into vegetated swales as well. So an important part of this is there's a lot of mitigation proposed, pulling up lawn and putting in native vegetation. You can see on the plan there that it's a pretty extensive list, and there's a separate landscape plan that Andrew Garrelay of my office worked on. We worked with staff to even snug it up a little bit tighter than the normal recommendations of spacing to make sure that we infilled it nicely. And it'll be a 4-to-1 improvement over existing. There's a rather large mitigation calculation table, which I won't bore everybody by going through all the numbers, but bottom line is, if you look at note 10 there, there's a little boardwalk which was put in without permission. Would like to keep it. We think that if you go to the site or look at the photographs, it's a fairly benign thing. The owners do like to go out and bird watch. If the boardwalk wasn't there, you'd normally allow a path to go out there, and the concern is, you'd get with the silty and clay soils, a lot of mud tracking and damage to vegetation plus siltation, where the boardwalk, kind of keeps the feet clean and it just has nice spacing so that the water could go down and infiltrate into the ground naturally. And while it is disturbing a little bit of wetland there, we're creating a nice habitat at a ratio of 4-to-1 plus on the all around it. And you guys had already required under note 9 on the plan, a restoration plan that was infilling a lot of the sort of clearing that was done down near the salt marsh. So that's all going to be restored. That's on the side, but the area will be much nicer, we think, when it's done. And then plus you've got 25 square foot of mitigation all along the resource area, kind of coast to coast across the back of the site. So it's a small addition. It's well mitigated. The boardwalk, our narrative went through. It would be a variance to retain it because you don't really allow structures in the V zone. So we know it's a tall ask, but when you look at it, it's a pretty benign little boardwalk. We feel that by avoiding muddying up that area by walking on it, it probably does more good than harm, especially when weighed against the amount of mitigation that you're getting in return. So that would be the request, and I'd certainly be glad to go through any of the points and answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Okay. Christian, if you have any questions, raise your hand so we'll know, okay?
Okay.
Anybody here have questions? Go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So, just for clarity, where is it identified in the mitigation table, the boardwalk?
So that would be area of minor structures, decks and sheds and hardscape, I believe, is the area. Let me see. So it's a 4-to-1. Okay, so in the notes down below, the single asterisk in that calls it out to your attention. The proposed minor structures within the 0 to 35 includes the unpermitted
Okay.
boardwalk, which is 127 square foot.
Is within that.
And that's portion of, yeah, because usually you go 0 to 35, but we just tacked down the portion that was within the wetland because we certainly wouldn't want to discount that.
Right. So the boardwalk was built without a permit, and so removing native vegetation and altering the soils. Why wasn't a variance not obtained at the time?
We were not involved with that. It was I guess sort of a homeowner special. They just weren't aware that it was needed. I think they might have been familiar with the fact that you can often have a walkway, but unexplicably constructed it without permission.
So the applicant didn't know at the time that to pursue any other alternatives or anything like that?
It's my understanding, yeah, they were just ignorant to the regulations and they apologized for it, but would, respectfully ask that with a big dose of mitigation, that it somehow be allowed to remain.
So what troubles me, though, is when we do the mitigation calculation, it isn't just a math, equation. It's really how much of the BVW was altered, including, not just the structure itself, but the staging and the access, et cetera. And I don't know if it's because we've seen several of these recently, these after the fact, but I just think that we should be very cognizant of any precedents that we set here and how these future violations be prevented. And I'm speaking to my colleagues here. Because now we're left with a decision on whether or not, if we leave the structure, does leaving the structure cause more harm than removing it? And that's, what guides our action, and that's an unfortunate position to put the commission in. So I don't really have a question other than, when the commission looks at the mitigation, it isn't just, again, like a square footage numbers game. It's just like what was impacted, and does the replacement really serve the same purpose? And in this specific situation, I don't believe that it does. When you put something elsewhere where you've done this initial disturbance. So I'm just bothered by it, and that's all I have.
I hear you. Anybody else? Paul?
Yeah, it's interesting. It does come down sometimes to being bothered by the fact that folks go ahead and do things and say, well, I didn't know, when they're buying and building on this beautiful piece of property on the north side of Yarmouth, and they don't know. Maybe they didn't think about it or something, but to me, I agree with Ellie. It's not so much that the mitigation won't in some way contribute to rectifying the situation, but the larger issue is that folks do things and then after the fact ask for forgiveness. Well, I think we have to stop forgiving, because there's a little bit too much of it, where things are done and later on you come back, oh, I didn't know, or the landscaper did it, or whatever the case may be. So I would not be in favor of even keeping this boardwalk. I don't see any purpose for it, and again, it's that kind of claim of ignorance that is just hard to accept on a regular basis.
Anybody else? Jack?
Well, also, it's built too low, it's poorly, doesn't follow the rules if it were legal, if it were allowed. So what would you do as far as either making it better as a contractor, or would you change it, raise it, put in a path? What would you, or just let it go back?
Yeah, it would certainly leave it up to the board's discretion, but I guess my recommendation, if we were, and I get it, it's, forgiveness rather than permission is a bad route, and we would never advise that. But to try and make good with what we've got there, you have disturbed physically, an area that would normally be like a grass path, down to, a bird watching area. Normally, you'd always allow, people to access the back of their property. But, nonetheless, the footprint of it takes up about 1 times the amount. And then you've got 3 other times that we're adding, additional pulling up lawn and putting in planting. So you've got some benefit there. I think to make it better, probably widen the gap in the boards a little bit, and I only saw a couple of them clamp down to the sauna tubes. I think would probably recommend a stainless steel and epoxy drill in to make sure that it doesn't lift up during a storm event and move around. So those 2 things, you'd widen the gap in the spacing, and from aesthetically and because it's you know, if you look at the photographs, it's just a low site. I don't think putting something up in the air would be particularly aesthetically pleasing in that area. I think it's a low profile. If you put a good gap in between them, I think you'll get some vegetation to grow between them. And that's probably what I would recommend is re-anchoring with stainless steel and, you know, epoxy drilled into the sonotubes to really bolt it down and widen the gap up to, say, an inch to let a lot of light through it. And if you would somehow allow that, my clients would be extremely appreciative. If there's any other thing that you would think of, we would certainly do it. And short of that, we'll accept whatever the board decides.
Bradford, you have anything to say?
I echo a lot of what my colleagues have already said, asking for forgiveness. As far as I can tell, this was put in fairly recently, so we're not talking about something that's been there for decades. I do have a major issue with the sonotubes, actually. If it were any other sort of base structure, I might feel differently, but
Helical
Not
piles or
comfortable
something
with
would be better, but, you know.
yeah. So I think if it had it come before us, before it was installed, I think we could have helped guide it in a way that would have been a lot less of an impact on our wetland resources, but it wasn't. So now we're looking at something that is, in my opinion, quite impactful because all the vegetation underneath has died. It's not designed in a way that would have allowed continued growth of the vegetation. And to your point of the extensive mitigation, I appreciate the 4-to-1 efforts, but you say you're removing lawn, but where you have the mitigation is currently garden beds. So we're really just converting garden bed to natural area. We're not reducing the amount of lawn, as far as I can tell.
Plus, a lot of it is juniper, which that's not native.
Nope.
So there's your ratio going down, really.
Well, I think it is on the coastal wetland, you know, coastal list.
It is. That's true. We just strongly
I don't think
prefer
it's
others.
On what
not
coastal
native
list?
to the Cape, I think. Is it?
It's on the Barnstable County approved shrub list. It is. But we have in the past requested that be replaced with general agreement from our applicants with something more high value. So I see that as something that can easily be fixed.
Yeah, a substitution on that. Well, I do realize it's a tall ask for a variance for a new structure, you know, in the velocity zone. But I don't know, I guess, were we to raise it up a bit and do through flow panels or something like that, would there be any way we could get a variance on this? Or do we have any thought on that? I just don't know whether there's any appetite for that or whether we should just withdraw that request.
If you wanna-
Yeah, I don't want to belabor it in a way, but the thing, and now, it's just a question, this was installed by the current owners?
My, honestly, I'm pretty sure, well, I'm not entirely sure, but I think so.
I think the rest of the plan, the additions, all that stuff, I mean, it's an incredibly beautiful house and location. And this thing was done in a way that also disrupted the marsh there because the sonotubes had to be put in, the concrete had to be poured. I mean, it's kind of a semi-big job in a way. And it was just like so flagrantly, I don't want to say illegal, but inappropriate because it didn't have the permitting. They don't even understand the disconnect between the care that the folks are taking now to make sure they do everything right and the fact that they put that thing down. Again, any of us who know the north side you can walk out on that marsh different, you put on a pair of boots, So I kind of get it, in a way, you want to just kind of easily go out there, but it's not allowed. It's not recommended. It's not appropriate, so I've said enough.
I understand that, and we know it's a tall ask, so if that's the consensus of the board, we'll acquiesce to that and remove it. The owner would really love to keep it, but if there's no path forward that's reasonable, we're not going to be stubborn about it.
I'm getting the sense that it is the feeling of the board, and I just want to add that it seems to me when people buy a house that's on the water or a wetland, the first thing they should do is figure, if they want to do something, is call the Conservation Commission and ask what they can do and what they can't do, even if they've inherited say in this case. So I think it's best if, two things, if you come back with a revised plan with the boardwalk removed, and, but the other problem has to do with the soil, there was no soil sampling, there was no wetland work. The BVW sheets are incorrect, am I correct?
Yeah, so the delineation forms were incomplete. So we don't have sufficient data, and it's just very convenient that the BVW was delineated along the fence line when there's BVW on both sides, so the whole perimeter of the property. And then he used vegetation alone, where you can't do that in a disturbed area because it wouldn't key out as wetland since there are hydrangeas in there. I do recognize that it won't, even if the BVW is moved to 10 feet, it won't impact the mitigation for the project that we're proposing. But in interest of a complete site plan, if you could complete the BVW forms with the soil evaluation to ensure that the BVW is properly delineated, because it may very well come up through this mulched area, but we cannot be sure with the information provided.
I also think there's some trash out there that needs to be found and taken care of, which I'm sure is easy.
Absolutely, that's embarrassing, and we apologize for that. That can certainly be taken care of.
You have anything else, Brittany?
If we get additional information about the BVW, if you could also just denote on the plan where the sampling plots are located, so that we're able to compare them in the field, just because there's a lot of vegetation out there, and I was having difficulty finding where his sampling plot was based on, especially since he only used vegetation to evaluate.
Sounds good, yeah. It's a tricky area because there's silt loam on the top, and, you stomp your foot, it wants to form a wetland. It's a tricky area. Down a few feet, we did punch into medium coarse sand. You can see the test hole logs there.
Where was the test hole?
Those are not particularly close to the wetland, but the big symbols up in the middle there.
So if we did one like over here in this corner, because I have a feeling it might come up, I mean, even 10 feet, fully recognizing the work would still maintain outside the 50-foot buffer, but if we're approving the plan, we are approving the BVW delineation as well.
Yeah, fair enough. That we'll have our consultant look into that and fix that up for you. Those north side wetlands are tricky when you get the clay layer, but we'll do the best we can with it.
Great.
Anybody in the audience have a comment or questions? Anybody online? So, I think we want to continue this with the new plan.
Yeah, and the directions, my notes are remove the boardwalk and would want to revegetate that area, I would assume, or at least a grass path.
If they want
fescues.
access into the wetland, they can walk the path, depending how wide you want to have it. I don't have, they're doing all this restoration planting for this other project. It's already been implemented. It's a 4-foot wide boardwalk right now. Is that correct?
Yeah, 2.8-ish. The end is 6 foot by 5 foot.
So what does the...
About 3 foot wide. I think a 3-foot
Oh, 3
path would
foot.
be sufficient. It's
I
not
think
like
a
we did
3-foot path is fine to remain if the commission agrees, so that they can still walk out there.
native fescues, something like that, grasses. Whatever we can get to grow in there.
Okay.
Salt tolerant.
And we want to have you
Fair.
change the creeping juniper to something else.
All right.
It's left over from Ed.
Oh, yeah.
That's an Ed
that goes-
special.
I don't know, I kind of like this stuff, but that's okay. Fair enough.
And what's a good date to?
Well, we'd love to move forward with the addition, so yeah, we can get this done. I don't want to overpromise the consultant, wetland consultant. Is it 3 weeks, or what's the?
The next meeting is 2 weeks, the 16th, but then there's there's a 5th week in April, so the meeting after that is 3 weeks later.
The 7th.
Well, if we could put it for the 16th,
That's-
we'll
yeah.
push hard for that, and I'll give you a continuance well in advance if we need to, if that would be appropriate. Okay. Thank you very much for your careful consideration here, and I do understand that was a tough ask, and I appreciate you being, at least considering it. Thank you.
Anybody want to make a motion to continue to the 16th? So move, Jack. Second? Second, thank you. Christian, 16th?
Aye.
Aye?
Yeah, that,
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay, thank you.
Thanks again.
This goes over here. Do you want me to send this down as is, since he has the other one?
Yeah, sure, attach that.
Sign that, but Paul
Okay.
has the sign for the
Got
COC. Have we sent out single?
Oh, yeah, I have
So just attach that. Thank you.
put this with that.
Yeah, please.
This is the one
Keep this forward.
That's signing that one, but this other one.
Okay. Next is SE 83-2150 Shorefront Consulting for David McCarthy, 110 River Street, request for a COC. So Brittany, you get to go next.
This original permit was for a bulkhead reconstruction or seawall reconstruction at the same elevation. The work's been done for a couple of years. There was required to have a 5-foot vegetated buffer. They have that in. There's some additional plantings required for an enforcement order that are moderately complete. They need some minor adjustments, but the work on the bulkhead is complete and compliant. So I'd recommend the commission issue the certificate of compliance with ongoing conditions 17 and 18.
Okay. Anybody have any questions or comments? Okay. So if if I understand this correctly, they had an order of conditions from 2022?
Of an enforcement order from
Yeah, that's what I
2022.
meant.
Yeah, so that included more extensive mitigation plantings. It does also appear that the homeowner has mowed the mitigation area, which is not allowed, so we'll include that as an ongoing condition as well. The whole area has to remain natural.
Okay. So.
Revetment work or the bulkhead work is fine.
Okay.
We'll have to revisit the violation. You want to you can comment?
Yeah, Mark Burgess, Shorefront Consulting. So I just want to understand, the pictures that I took were just a couple of weeks ago. The applicant sent a picture of the vegetative buffer when it was during the growing season, when it's really nice and robust. There is it was 5 feet of beach grass along the bulkhead, and then some diversified plantings landward of that, between that 5 foot and the patio. And I think those are in. The picture shows stuff, something like this tall.
Yeah, but this isn't a landscape area, so he can't go in and chop down all the grasses every winter.
When I saw that, I said, I know that cutting promotes growth, but only for certain plants. So
No,
Just
it's a
let it go.
no-touch zone. Yeah, and there's also some plants missing toward the south of the stairs, of the granite steps. I'm not sure if Joe got a photo of that exact spot, but south of this area, from the concrete path landing to the south, there's a whole area. I'll show you the planting plan. This top 2 rows is missing. So it has to be planted fully and not maintained.
That's a
And
2000.
and he's missing monitoring reports, so we'll need monitoring reports for 2 falls.
for when?
For the fall this year and another subsequent because he'll have new plantings.
Oh.
In order to resolve the enforcement order.
So he still has work to do?
Yes, we're missing some plants.
Okay. Well, let me work with you on that separately then. And,
Yeah, so you see the landing on here?
Yeah.
These two rows on the top are missing. So it's about
Okay,
10 shrubs and some grasses, a row of shrubs and a row of grasses just needs to go in to
and then.
complete it.
and then Just let it go, don't.
Yeah,
don't
and we'll
monitor
need
anything.
2 falls of monitoring, since he hasn't done any monitoring yet.
But you're approving the COC then?
Well, yeah, the COC was just for the bulkhead replacement, so I don't have an issue with the COC.
Now I understand. Okay, thank you.
Okay, and you wanted to have the plantings done by June 10th?
Yeah, so they should go in this season since it's a couple years old to finish it out.
Okay.
By June 10.
So to be clear, what we're voting on is the COC for the bulkhead, and the other is
It's just discussion.
just discussion and needs to be done.
Okay.
Get it?
Okay.
Do I hear, do you have any questions?
No.
Go ahead.
I'll move the approval of the proposed reconstruction of the failing bulkhead with conditions.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Christian, aye or nay?
Aye.
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 Aye. Thank you.
I vote aye. Thank you.
Thought you would.
See you in a little bit. And Brittany,
Oh, you can stay. The next one's continued.
I'm sorry, what?
You
You
can
can
stay
stay.
there. The next one's a continued item, so
Oh.
I had you back to back theoretically.
Okay then.
See, we're getting through this just for you.
Did I mix this up? Oh, I did. Oh, no, I didn't.
No, you didn't. You're okay. All right, next is SE 83-2514 Crawford Land Management for Scott Peterson. 10 and 20 Susan Road, proposed bank stabilization using core fiber rolls and invasive tree removal in coastal bank and land subject to coastal storm flowage. They asked to continue to 4/16/26. As, do I hear a, did I send something down wrong?
Yeah, that's for this one.
Okay.
The continuance request
Yeah,
just went along with.
Why are you putting that in that folder? You just put that on the side.
that's Surfside. I don't have a folder for Susan? Okay. There we go. Do I hear a motion to continue?
I move that we continue to April 16th.
Okay, second, anybody? Second, Jack? Okay, again, Christian, you accept that?
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay, great. Like those easy ones. All right. Next is SC 83-25 North 19, Shorefront, excuse me, Consulting for Thomas Grimes. 10 Surfside Terrace, proposed seawall replacement and raising by 1 foot in land under ocean. Riverfront area, land subject to coastal storm flowage and coastal bank. And, again, this is 10 Surfside Terrace. Now you may start.
Thank you. Good evening. Mark Burgess again with Shorefront Consulting, and Mr. Grimes is here as well. Good evening. So when we walked away from the last hearing, well, there were some changes that need to be made. We submitted a revision. We lowered the bulkhead, so it's only proposed to be raised by 1 foot to elevation 4.9, let's just say 5. We eliminated the fill, we modified the plant list, we updated the resource area table, added some flood zones to the plan, changed some notes to reflect the height and the deletion of fill from the project. The brick walkway was added, and the bulkhead detail AA was corrected and to change the height and delete the fill. I believe those are the concerns that we left with, and I think my hope is that eliminating the fill greatly simplifies the project, and obviously we're here to answer any other questions you might have.
Okay. Anybody have any questions?
I just have a comment. Thank you very much. We don't see this very often, but it's very helpful. It's very elementary that you identify the revisions as such with revision 1 and revision 2 and specifically say that it's per our comments. We don't see that very often, so I just want to commend you for doing that.
Well, thank you very much.
Good example.
Thank you.
Anybody else? I do have a question about the wall. You said it's going to be now 4.9, you lowered it a foot. I'm still asking your opinion of how that might affect the neighbors and erosion.
In my opinion, it won't affect the neighbors. You gotta, so remember, and I'll try to be brief here, but you gotta remember that an elevation, a wall of only 4 foot high is the lowest wall that I can remember of any bulkhead I've done in Dennis, Yarmouth, or any other town. It's really low. If it's been there for 70 years and the bulkhead was causing any kind of scour, that would be evident already. When you raise the bulkhead up, you gotta remember that the water has to be up there for that 1 foot to affect it. Now you're in 4 feet of water, so that energy that's up here is not getting back down to the beach. So I just don't see any way how wave action or anything else can impact any of the adjacent beaches. And it would have by now if it was going to. There's a bulkhead 2 doors down that's at elevation 5, so it's in concert with the neighborhood. It is one of the lowest bulkheads I've ever proposed to be reconstructed.
Anybody else, questions? See one up there, do you have, go ahead, someone said something, go ahead.
So describe to me how you think the ends of the bulkhead are going to protect your neighbors, or at least
So the regulations don't allow us,
be impacted.
the regulations don't allow, say, a bulkhead, the bathtub that you're creating, right? By your containing the floodwaters on the applicant's property. The regulations don't allow us to have that water exit off to the sides onto a neighboring property. That's why you keep the bulkhead at the same height all the way back till it reaches grade. So then when the water recedes, it's at the top of the bulkhead, and as the water continues to recede, the water that's on the property stays there. It doesn't spill out, and it will infiltrate straight down, so it doesn't go onto the neighbor's properties.
Well, if you look at CZM, Coastal Zone Management of Massachusetts, it gives a little different opinion, so that you sometimes shorten the wall, or you can put a riprap or stone above the wall instead of increasing its height. And so I just wonder how you compare what you're doing with what's in that CZM number 7, stormwater.
I'm not familiar with that. When you say placing rocks,
Well, riprap or,
there are many cases where people have put a small amount of rocks in front of the bulkhead, and that helps absorb some of the energy from the vertical of the bulkhead and absorbs the wave energy at the base. Then you're putting rocks on a coastal beach, but that's the only instance
I'm
I
really
know of putting
talking-
rocks on
I'm
the
talking about
bulkhead.
making a slope so that it slopes back from the top of the wall. Instead of adding height to it, you can be able to slope across and up towards the house.
The bulkhead? So the height of the wall goes till it meets grade. So that the grade, in this case, the site,
You're talking about putting fill in?
no,
Okay.
no. The walls just stay at the same height, but they run landward until they meet existing grade. And that contains everything within that footprint. Can't go anywhere but down.
And how about the ends of the wall, both sides?
What regard?
Not impacting the neighbors.
when the whole area, if the whole area is flooded, bulkhead's underwater, right? If, let's just say the floodwater is right at elevation 4.9, and then it starts to recede.
I think we're talking about erosion.
I'm not sure I understand your question, and I'm not sure I can answer it.
I'll support you, Jack, on this one. It is studied that bulkheads, and this is a seawall, since it's below mean high water, they do have end effects, and they cause end scour. To the degree, it's different at each property. So Jack's wanting to know how you are decreasing the end scour impacts from your wall by expanding it landward.
We're not changing any of those conditions. And like I said, at scour is going to be where there's soil. That's down below at the base of the wall, not at the top of the wall.
No, I understand. I was talking about two different things.
Apparently we are, but I can't. So end scour, when CZM or anybody else wants to talk about end scour, they talk about wave reflecting off of a structure onto the soil. So
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
That's what that's
that's
talking
down
about.
at the level of
On the ends, yes.
Right.
Sorry, didn't mean to confuse it.
Okay, so that's down at the level of the beach. But if we're raising the wall 1 foot, we're already 3 feet above the beach. So anything that's going on here in that foot up above isn't affecting the ground.
No, I'm talking about the ends impacting the two things. Either constructing your wall differently so that it protects towards the house all the way along, at which you're putting in plantings,
Right?
and and that's gonna be at the top of the wall.
It's down, there'll be 1.5 feet below the wall because the
Okay.
grade isn't being changed. So you're getting, I guess, when I look at projects like this, I say, what is the overall net change? Overall, it doesn't, in my opinion, it doesn't change any erosion or any chance of erosion from end scour, because that's at the base of the bulkhead, way down here, when you've got, we're only changing it up here.
I
You
understand
have the
that.
benefit of a very nice vegetated buffer that's going to be enhanced with a more diversity of plants. So that's a benefit to the environment, to uptake, to nitrogen uptake, to all of those things that plants are good for.
I'm just worried about whether or not that's going to be with increased water levels and storm intensity and so forth, that's going to be enough to really last in the long run, and whether it might not be cheaper to put in a sloped area, which you may not be able to do, sounds like you can, towards the house, and even adding, instead of fill, which you're not going to put.
Now I think I understand. Yeah, the grade goes up, so there's no way to slope it back toward the house. And you could only, the grade at the base of the patios and everything is only at elevation like 6, so there's nowhere to go with that.
So that's lower than the wall.
No, the grade is a little bit higher than the wall, by the time you get back to the house. But
Yeah.
directly behind the wall, the grade is about elevation 3.5, I think we agreed on, because right now the wall is about this far above grade. That grade doesn't change, but it slopes up toward the house, so I can't make it slope away from the wall.
Well, correct me if I think that was thinking that the slope was higher towards the house than what I'm hearing now. So I can see where my idea or the CZM's idea wouldn't really work in this case. But then if we go look at the end walls and the impact on the neighbors, CZM really says you should have a wall that stops 15 to 25 feet before your neighbors, and then you and you build in plantings or other kind of things on the land, and it'll lessen the impact on your neighbors. And you actually end up sloping from the end of the wall down to the ground level.
Okay, so now I think I understand. That's down at ground level. If it was a new bulkhead,
No, they're talking about replacements or anything.
well, so there's a lot of new bulkheads that I've done, and what we've done is stop the return 15 feet from the property line and put fiber rolls there to soften the return. We don't have that option here. The bulkhead's already there.
Well, okay?
All you're doing is adding to the top of the bulkhead, to the seawall.
Only the top, yeah.
Correct.
And so you're not, it'd be too expensive to take out some of the bulkhead to make it so you could have that sloping?
The bulkhead's been there for 70 years. It'd be more disturbance to do that as well, because right now you're just pulling up
I'm
the
talking about
sheeting.
protecting the neighbor, not the disturbance.
No,
If I may add, I'm the homeowner, Tom Grimes. I've spoke to both direct neighbors, and they're both in support of this.
Like,
And they've both
okay,
given a letter for that.
without increasing the height and so forth.
Right. You're fine.
You seem to have a question.
Well, no, I was trying to rephrase the question just to be really simple in how can you convince us that this installation will not redirect the water negatively? How can you reassure us? That's our concern, is a redirection that this may cause, and that's what we're speaking of in that document all the time, is that sometimes this does more harm than good. So how can you convince us that this will not redirect the water?
In my opinion, it doesn't change any way the water acts than it does now, because the bulkhead is already there. Raising it up by 1 foot only interacts with the water that's way up here, which is away from any, I mean, everybody else is flooded at the same time, remember? It's not that this thing changes that. So, in my opinion, there's no change.
That's a good way of putting it.
Thank you. So there's no change, and you get the benefit of an enhanced
No
vegetative
net.
buffer.
There's no net
No net change, no.
no.
I think our original concern was how it affects the neighbors, and you just said that the neighbors have no issue with it. Beginning to understand the difference between 3.9 and 4.9, and how it has to be up there in order to even have an effect. I mean, if it's at 3.9, it's not gonna make any difference to what it is presently, as far as the amount of water in front of it. Anybody else before you turn to Brittany? Brittany?
As Mr. Grimes said, we do have 2 letters of support that were submitted from these 2 neighbors. So the direct neighbor to the east and west, and the neighbor to the east has a bulkhead, and hers is elevation 4 as well. So they're both in support of this project. And we do have an additional comment from Mr. Marasco, who was present at the prior meeting, who is at this property back here. He's a direct abutter, but to the landward side, and has access via an easement on Mr. Grimes' property. I'm not going to read verbatim because he already provided comment, but I will attempt to summarize. He's opposed to the project because of the potential to cause adverse impact in the velocity zone and to erosion. He feels that it's prohibited by the bylaw. And he cites in the potential for increased downdrift erosion and scour, recreational beach impact, and end effects. But this has been in the public document since it was submitted on the 31st. So hopefully you had a chance to review it, but he was not able to be here today, but made public comments in the prior hearings.
Anybody in the audience? Yes. You'd introduce yourself?
Members of the commission, my name is Paul Revere. I'm an attorney in Centerville, and I represent Mr. Marasco. He asked me to come because he could not make it here tonight. And I'm not going to completely reiterate his comments because you have them in the record. I have some comments of my own. I've spent, it's getting scary now, I counted this. I can't say I've done complex environmental permitting for 38 years. All I can say is 37 years and 11 months. I spent a lot of time dealing with this, and I was really somewhat surprised by this project. And that is, and the way it was going. The concept that I've always thought was, we want to have soft solutions. We don't want to increase hardscape in an area subject to wave action. And Bill has pointed out that your regulations specifically say, quote, no new construction or expansion of any structure that redirects or channelizes floods, including retaining walls, fences, and seawalls shall be permitted. A few minutes ago, we were talking about 110 C Street, and it was replaced same height. And Mr. Marasco has no problem with same height. It's already there. It's we're going higher, we're building higher. As he talked about in his matter about erosion by reflection. And I kind of, when I looked at the history of this, a couple things came up. One was, well, how did it end up there? And I brought a couple of documents with me, which I marked up here, which show the history. And I only have 3 copies, and so I will, of course, leave one here so that you can see it. But if you look at that aerial that we're looking at, and who's the chairman at the moment? There we go.
At all the moments.
And to the chairman. Actually, the seawall is not 70 years old. And there we go, that's the other one there. The seawall is actually based on a license from 1935. As you see, I've given you Plan Book 51, page 111. And you can see there's solid fill that's placed in there and a seawall along the Bass River. What stood out to me was, and if Ms. DiRenzo had up the aerial there, is you'll see Homer, I all know her, it's Homer Ave, is it, there? You can see where mean high water is on Homer Avenue, okay? And if you look at what I've given you, Plan Book 51, page 111, that's basically where mean high water was in 1935. This whole seawall was brought out about 30 feet farther into the Bass River in 1935, and it comes across as you see there. And that second plan I gave you, which is from Plan Book 486, page 54, is a 1992 plan for the dock, and I just threw it in there because it shows exactly the same historical mean high water is way up into the property. And this was, for want of a better term, a land grab. That's why the water comes up in here. It's because it used to be underwater. It's been filled and pushed up into that area. Now, there's a lot of talk about V-zone here. And we can all see the V-zone, and I'm sure it's accurately done on the plan. In fact, I talked to an engineer, and he said it's really easy to make them accurate now. Mr. Perry used to say to me, when you put a 1/10 of an inch line on a 4-mile plan, you end up with an area at least 40, 50 feet wide. But nowadays, you can make it very accurate. But the V-zone is right there, and it's right on the edge of the bulkhead there. So we have 3-foot waves that come into that area. If you look, though, more closely at that plan, there is something called the limit of moderate wave action. And I don't know how often you've run across it, but it's on the newer, and Ms. DiRenzo is pointing out to it, it goes way into the property. And that is an area which I'm now going to pull out for some DEP explanation. The moderate wave action zone is inland of the V-zone and contains wave heights greater than or equal to 1.5 feet, but less than 3 feet. My point being is that, yeah, technically most of this is not in the V-zone, but it is clearly significant wave action. This is not the V-zone 50 feet away. The V-zone's right at the edge of there. They're 3-foot waves that are coming right to that edge of that bulkhead. And Mr. Grimes is asked to increase it by a foot. Now, DEP hasn't finalized its land subject to coastal storm flowage regulations, but in those regulations, it talks about how buildings on solid foundations and elevated structures below flood elevation can redirect waves and obstruct flows during storms, increasing flood velocity, elevation, and volume on other properties. Now, volume, as has been pointed out to you, is not really that important in a coastal flood zone because the ocean is a giant sink, as Dan Ojala once said to me. It's like throwing a pin inside a bathtub. There's too much there. So, but more what we're talking about and what Mr. Marasco's concern was, because he has the easement, and my understanding is he also had a partial ownership in the adjacent property, but he does have an easement right to use the area at the end of Surfside, is about erosion and reflection. And therefore, the proposed regulations talk about, these are the DEP proposed ones, say that any new buildings in this moderate wave action area must be elevated on open piles. My point being is there's very consistent science and use in the area of conservation that this area has issues of reflection and the like. Now, it's kind of funny. I was sitting here watching this, and, you know, Mr. Marasco talks about, you know, concern about adjacent properties and the like. And I'm sitting there thinking about, God, I remember when I was an attorney in Michigan. There's a lake called Lake St. Clair, and it is the size of Cape Cod Bay. It is completely armored on the Grosse Pointe side of it. And I used to sail at Crescent Sail Yacht Club. And as we talked about, I'm actually an incredibly fast sailor in small boats in choppy, weird, waving conditions because it was armored, and the motorboat waves would bounce off that shore, waves coming from multiple directions. It's not only the adjacent property owners. Basically, what you've got here is you've got Bass River, you got waves that reflect all over the place. Hard shorescape like this is a problem. Mr. Marasco couldn't be here tonight because he's out of town, but his essential point is we have conservation commissions are trying to do soft solutions. We have, has nothing to do with Mr. Grimes, a long ago built out hard seawall here. No problem, replace it in kind. It would be a fine thing to do, but don't put another foot of reflection in the Bass River. Thank you very much.
Anybody else have a comment? Anybody online? See a hand. Anybody have any questions?
I guess my question is, I don't know what 1 foot does. Can anybody help me? I mean, how do we, I'm believing you that there is no impact, that raising this 1 foot will not increase the flow, but that's all I have.
Then you have the other side that says it will.
Yeah, I mean, my personal feeling is that the hardening happened in 1989, unfortunately. And in looking at this and in looking at the plan view, the attorney is exactly right. This is all land grabbing. Everybody squared off their property by pushing it out and putting up a bulkhead. And that damage was substantial at the time, but raising it the 1 foot, I personally don't know. I'm not a scientist in that respect. I mean, you're assuming it hits it and it reacts more than it does now. And I don't, can you explain to me your position that it doesn't impact again?
Yep.
I mean, just velocity-wise, I mean, talk scientific to me, I'll believe you. I mean, I'll try to believe.
Well, as I said again, erosion happens down where the soil is. So let's take an extreme example. Let's say that the wall was 10 feet high. I mean, the flood zone is quite a bit higher than the bulkhead is, right? So let's just say the bulkhead was 10 feet high and the water's up at 10 feet. Do you see any way that wave action up there can affect the ground? Because that's where erosion is on the ground. So when we build new bulkheads, we do. Sometimes we come back from the property line and we soften it so that reflective energy is absorbed. But we don't have that opportunity here. It's been there, at least it was licensed in 1935. But my major point is that any difference in Any reflection that's going on is already going on. And the only additional reflection that's going on at the 1 foot, you're already in 4 feet of water. So that energy is not going back down and causing erosion. It's too far away.
My problem is, you know, I have to take your word for it, because I'm, like you, I don't have that expertise. What happens if you're wrong, and then to the, you know, how does it affect the neighbor then? What do we do then if it is if you're wrong and it does affect? And that's where I have a issue, to be honest, what to do about it. I don't know if Brittany can help me, or whether she even wants to.
Well, could I,
Go ahead.
if you have 3 feet of water, let's say in a tube, a round tube, and you add, let's say it's 3 feet, and you add a foot more, is that way more at the bottom?
In a
So that
controlled-
you actually end up with more,
Right. In a
more weight
controlled
affecting
environment, I think
bottom.
yeah, in a controlled environment, I think you're right. I think
So I
in this
think-
particular case, the natural inclination is saying we have 4 feet of wall 5, so there's a foot of water that's going to hit it. The reality is, it's 4.5 an inch, then 4 foot and an inch, then 4 foot 2 inches. That's water is already being absorbed on both sides of the river. It's soft, so it's not this impact as if you were in a laboratory and had walls and you increased it. That force would be very measurable. This would be measurable, but I think it's infinitesimal because it's being absorbed throughout the entire dispersion of the river, from my house to a mile out to the mouth and a mile all the way back. And you're looking at the gallonage that is 1 foot back maybe 30, 35 feet until my property is 5 feet. From that point forward, it doesn't matter if there's any wall because the water in every area is 5 feet going higher. So it is in that small, teeny little window of one single property spread out of all over Bass River. So technically, is it measurable? Probably at some degree, but it would be so minute, I can't imagine it would affect anything.
Well,
Having
we're
said
talking-
that, we also have one of the lowest seawalls that's there. I mean, you go to the mouth of Bass River, some of those seawalls are up 8 and 10 feet by necessity. So
that's why I'm suggesting that here's your seawall, here's your property a little bit higher. You've got a slope, and I would suggest that you could, instead of raising it, put in riprap several feet up. That would actually dissipate the impact, because it would absorb that 1 foot.
are you talking landward above my wall? Because then you're actually
Yes.
making a stone wall in my backyard. So
Well,
I'm looking out at a stone.
or yeah, the alternative would be, if you can show us that without raising it, the water coming in would just be go in and go behind and drain back underground. And I don't understand why you worry about 1 foot.
Why, I personally wanted to raise 1 foot?
Adding a foot.
Obviously, levels have been increasing to some degree. I mean, whatever the mean high water mark was in 1935, whoever the engineer built the wall, there was most likely some analysis saying, let's be X inches, feet above that to absorb it. It's grown a little bit. I'm not a scientist, I don't know how much more, but I am getting debris now for a moderate storm, and I think the damage of that coming into the property and the cleanup, I have 2x4s, I have floats, I have life preservers, I've had a kayak. Things like that on a major storm, you can't prevent. For the moderate storm, for the time and effort to put a bulkhead that I think would be safer, more protective of the environment, an extra foot seems like a reasonable, moderate change to what's there.
Well, I agree. I agree, though, that I would suggest that if you put in a sloped area,
Jack, I understand. I'm not sure.
and I think in the long run, that would work a lot better and be cheaper than raising it a foot. It would actually,
I think from an expense standpoint, the wall is wood and it needs to be replaced adding a foot or not,
Oh.
it doesn't add any expense. Those sheets are 10,
Yeah,
12
I
feet.
hear
They
you.
drive them down in the ground.
Yeah,
That's not going to be the issue.
well, I'm not arguing about,
Yeah.
I'm just,
Can I make a
your
comment, Jack?
decision. I think we need to, I agree with you pretty much of that.
I would ask the
Cost.
consideration for what we're talking about would be so hard to study and to measure that I'm asking you for some consideration of what I think is a reasonable compromise between the two. I can't imagine what a study would be,
No,
going
I
to
agree.
Woods Hole and asking them what it would do. And then I think every town project would probably be subjected to that, both municipal and private. I don't see the end cause of that.
Well, to your point.
Can I
what
just
we're-
say something?
Yep,
I
that's
think
yours.
by doing something like that, you're going to even impact the river bank more
Oh, yeah.
than what they're asking to do.
Yeah.
Just more destruction.
I think that
It's more
what the
structure.
solution that you were looking at from is more for where the bank is much steeper and higher, and there's a much more vertical distance between the proposed wall and the house. So
No, I
I don't
agree.
know if that's fully applicable at the site. I just do want to add that I do believe it's my opinion that this is a permittable project under our current bylaw. We allow seawalls. We don't specify to what height we allow seawalls. We have permitted things like this in the past, not saying you always need to do the same thing you've done in the past. I believe it's a permittable project, and some of the lower impact alternatives are simply not applicable or possible at this site because it was more seaward than a traditional bulkhead was. It's a seawall. It's in the ocean. That eliminates a lot of the lower impact possibilities to replace it. The ones that we would want to see if it were a new wall might not be possible.
Well, I'm on a campaign to be sure that we're looking at these in more detail.
Yeah, I agree that the alternatives analysis could have
And
been
I
more robust, but
consider
other
your-
than that, I don't think any of those alternatives would have been chosen. They could have just been explored deeper.
If we could move ahead, I would appreciate, unless someone else has something desperate to say. I think we're.
Paul, can we just confirm, you missed the first hearing, or did you review the
I
minutes?
have them.
Okay, perfect. So we have a full quorum to
we'll have
vote.
Full quorum.
Do we have conditions?
The condition, I would recommend the typical bulkhead replacement conditions, including DMF I believe they put a time of year restriction on. So all DMF conditions would be included. And our typical in-water work, would work be from the upland, or do you need a barge?
Should be entirely from the up.
Upland? Yep.
Are you all ready to vote?
How's that?
Okay, let's do that then. Do I need a,
I move that
Motion.
we approve this project with the conditions. Oh, does somebody else want to move? Did I?
No, I was just gonna second it.
Oh, okay.
okay, is that clear? Okay. Christian,
Nay.
Aye.
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 aye. Okay, so passes, what are we, 7, so 6-1.
Why do I think everybody's going to come back at us with 1 foot height increases?
Well, we take everything one by one.
One by one.
Literally one by one. If it's any
Thank you very
consolation,
much.
Dennis's tilt point is 2.
I don't know what that means, tilt point.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Surfside
Sure
Terrace.
about that.
Do we, you want me to put those?
You know what I mean?
Yep.
It was perfect.
Could you put that back?
Back in 1992.
How about the thing he gave you?
He didn't give me one.
Oh.
He only gave you one. If you could put that in there.
Who has the
Yes.
maps that the attorney gave?
Oh, where's that paper?
Just when it comes down,
This?
Paul, put those maps in here
Oh, yeah,
with the attorney.
Oh,
Yeah. got 'em. You want this to go in also, Brittany? Does this go in?
Yes, please.
Wow.
Yeah, throw that in there.
That was a tough one. That was Surfside.
Attorney's points.
Okay,
Okay.
next. SE 83, 2524, Wet Tech, Wet Tech Land Design for Amy Rakowski, 8 Flintlock Way. Proposed expansion of a permeable driveway and patio of coastal bank and buffer zones to a BVW and coastal bank, bordering vegetative wetland, for those of us who has to be reminded. And give me 1 second to get to my notes. Okay, introduce yourself and.
Okay, good evening. For the record, my name is Wayne Tavares. I'm a landscape architect and a professional wetland scientist. We were here and the board gave me, the commission gave me good direction as to how to improve this plan. There were 5 different issues and I provided a item by item or itemized list of those issues. The board was concerned about a driveway expansion. We're trying to get 2-car wide driveway. So we showed the old driveway, we showed what we're asking for. I reduced the width of the driveway to 17 feet. That means I increased the distance to the property line of the owner. And also I'm trying to explain by way of graphics the difference. So I showed the new plan has new contours on it, and the old contours are dotted in the background. I also showed a cross-section of the driveway. You should all have it in front of you. And it shows the fill area at the greatest amount of fill on the cross-section. So that whole area goes from 15 feet, excuse me, from the Tupelo tree near the roadside in all the way to the garage. So that area is to be filled, but minutely in the beginning and as much as you see in this cross-section at its worst. Total fill, 15 cubic yards. The cross-section is very explanatory. It shows the garage, it shows the 2 cars parked abreast, shows the driveway edge, and also we promised to provide, well, the driveway itself provides penetration, no erosion control, a gravel base. It's a properly designed driveway. Also, one of the commissioners was concerned about water exiting into the street, and the contour, previous contour, shows the 15-foot contour is concave and actually pushes the water along the edge of the road and not on the road. So we will continue that. It'll be like a little bowing of the apron of the driveway before the road. So there's almost a 2-foot pitch from the garage out to the road, so we have positive pitch. It's approximately 2%, so it's very shallow. Even in torrential rains, the driveway will work. On the side slope that you're most interested in, we replaced a straw wattle with a coir fiber roll staked to the ground. We're trying to delineate the property line, make sure that the neighbor came out and talked to us while we were doing some research out there to make sure nothing entered across the property line. The pitch is 3.5 over 9, or about 2.6 to 1. It's not a great slope, it's not steep. None of the water from the driveway will go to the slope, just the rainwater that lands on the slope. That's one of the enhancements of the project. It was the enhancement that we had before. We show the mitigation planting as alternating along that shoreline. I mean, along the shore. I got stuck with the last meeting, excuse me, along the property line. So that's what we did with the driveway, and going through it item by item. Then trying to justify the walkway, and we have a previous walkway, and we're putting in a permeable stone as well as a small patio. The patio was shown as the only possible place for the owner to have a seating area to look out on her view. And I explained the responsive dry paving areas and the new techniques that are used. My guys, we only use gravel now. We don't use dense processed stone anymore or compaction. We put stone, we still compact it, we put it under a fabric. We use pea stone on top of that, and that's our setting bed. So essentially, we have a gigantic erosion attenuation pit. It's just like a dry well. So water will enter through the cracks, go under the patio and be lost as in entering the groundwater in the best possible way. Grass is being eliminated, by the way, both on the first issue I talked about. It's all grass down the property line edge. That is gone. It's to be replaced with this mitigation planting and pine bark. And then the the same thing with the walkway and the small patio. Grass will be removed. So grass is also being removed, another enhancement. The justification of leaving the coastal bank intact, I think I got some consensual agreement about the rear coastal bank undergrowth is full of invasives. And there was a great aerial photograph that Brittany showed on the last meeting that showed just the notch that's coming out of an immense area of adjacent invasives. So to run an owner through a cost, we were trying to guess at the cost between $20,000 to $25,000 to A, remove what's there, B, to cut and swipe, so to speak, so that the roots die, then take that chance of covering that steep slope with erosion fabric and replanting it to native plants that are going to be encroached upon within 2 or 3 years is, I thought, was kind of foolish, and I thought I had some agreement with some of the owners. I mean, some of the commission on that, excuse me. And then I went on an attempt to correct the deficit in the formulaic coverage of mitigation. So I took a hint from the commission and placed mitigation plants out sort of where they belong. So we're trying to create and make sure we have a path around the whole house of 5 feet. There's an existing concrete walk that's back there, and then it steps off and allows the owner to walk around the rest of the slope. Other than that, we planted it out 247 square feet. Each area is itemized with square footage and the types of plants that are used in that area. So total within the 35-foot is probably around 300 square feet. So then we changed the shape of the mitigation area, number 3, which is in front of the arborvitaes, and we just reconfigured it with the necessary number of plants. And of course, we've got our major mitigation is the slope that I talked about in the beginning. I did not get any calls from Brittany saying any concerns, so I expect this is hopefully able to be voted on this evening. And the other issue, number 5, we corrected the driveway entrance to protect the Tupelo as much as possible. We reduced the width of the driveway from 14 feet to 12.5 feet. We took another note from the commission to move the wall. There's 2 or 3 boulders, good-sized wheelbarrow-sized stones on the right-hand side. We can certainly adjust those, and we switch the driveway over more to the right. And we're providing 3.5 feet of space for the Tupelo tree. And I also gave a brief description about the roots of the Tupelo tree and how they're involved with this project. Taking a hint from Brittany, we also provided sweet fern as a ground cover. We couldn't see using bearberry here, it's too much shade. We couldn't see wintergreen, it doesn't have enough oomph to the project. But around the Tupelo tree, it'll show as a 2-foot marking of the driveway and essentially funnel all the cars into using just the driveway itself. Your meetings have been long tonight. I'm going to try to keep mine shorter than certainly last time and the other meetings of tonight. So if there's any questions, I'd like to hear.
Anybody have a question? So in essence, you're going to not do anything to the back of the house?
Yes, nothing. We're planning absolutely nothing in the back.
Go ahead.
Thanks. Thank you for acknowledging our questions and incorporating them in the drawings. I've just, actually, I found an answer to my question on the Quarroll being permanent or temporary, and you state that it's permanent in your, what do you say that? The install a permanent core roll 12 inches, I always say that wrong, 12 inches along the property line. Usually they're used for erosion control on a temporary basis, so my question is, will it suffice? And, or is it your intent to have it temporary until the mitigation matures?
It's your choice, really. What we've done in the past, we've used it for erosion control, of course. Everybody uses that. Bigger rolls, 16-inch, 20-inch, excuse me. These small rolls are just there to delineate the bottom of the slope and to pick up residual erosion, like a little bit of pine bark on a real rainy day until that pine bark adheres. That's probably after the first month. So it's there to delineate, it's there to ensure the neighbor that nothing enters into their property. And if it's okay with the board, we'd like to leave it. Core rolls are left because it's an organic fiber. It'll take probably about 5 years to completely disintegrate. But what harm is that if it's organic? So, and the stakes that we use would not be the oak stakes that we usually use. They would be like maple stakes, and they pin in and they erode. They also diminish with time.
So it's more used as sort of a termination than a redirection of water, I guess. Yeah.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Just a minor question. What is the quirk that you show in your cross-section about halfway down the slope? That little.
Oh, if needed, there's a notch. We will provide a notch on steep slopes, long slopes, in order to attenuate the water. It's a water bar, basically,
Yeah.
and it allows water to enter. So we put that in. It's only a 9-foot total slope, but we'll put it in if you ask for it. It's a notch. It's essentially dug in, and it picks up the first wave of water.
Yeah.
And then then that second half goes down to the core rolls.
Yeah. I figured that's what it was. I just didn't see it identified as such, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It's earthen. There's no structure to it, just an earthen trench.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I just have one question. I asked you about the patio last time you came in,
Sure.
in the front of the house. How much space is, those are some sort of blocks that you fit together?
Sure.
So how much space between the blocks?
3/4 of an inch.
And what's underneath them? You said pea stone or something?
Yeah, you can put in two things. Pea stone, if the joint is wide enough, if the product is wide enough to accept them, okay? I was at a project today, and they're using big pieces of bluestone, and we can get the pea stone fit into the gravels right on.
So the pea stone is level with the top of the,
Yeah, it's level with the top. Or we use grits, which is a smaller pea stone even, and that's if the joints are tighter. So if you have a 1/2 or 3/8 of an inch joint, you put grits in there.
and so the block itself is not permeable at all, it's just a block?
No.
And does vegetation grow up between those joints?
No, it's, what's the word? It's clinical, and I can't think of the term. I'm sorry.
Sorry, if it's clinical.
When you get an infection,
What?
never mind, I'm trying to come up with a word that I can't come up with.
No plants.
Sorry?
No worries.
Yeah.
In essence, nothing grows between it.
Nothing's gonna grow in there, right?
Yeah, one of those.
Sterile.
Sterile.
It's not organic, it's the opposite of
That's okay.
organic.
I'm just thinking if something blocked it up, it would be the same as the hard packed ground there, but that's okay. It seems like you're thinking about it. It's fine. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Maintenance in the long run, how much maintenance of that drainage area, that you're talking about? The fills with silt?
Under the patio, the drainage?
Well, no, what you were just saying, the silt will actually fill those pores, and you have
Oh,
to have
I see what you're saying. It's sort of the same question they asked in Provincetown when they put that permeable
Yeah.
asphalt. How do
Exactly.
you clean it? You're supposed, well, there in B-Town, they're supposed to vacuum it all the time. In this particular case, we don't plan on any maintenance. The runoff is straight away from the house. It'll be absorbed in that bed, for example, that separates the walkway from the patio, the upper patio, and it'll get absorbed there. I mean, erosion is negligible, but absorption will slowly go away, yes. It's always a perfect case. It slowly goes away, yeah.
Something.
Thanks. Sorry.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Brittany?
I'm just going to assume that the fiber roll is dug in halfway as it's shown on here. Is that the intention? Okay. I'm not familiar with any use of these apart from, coastal stabilization, but if this is what the homeowner wants to do, I'm sure that'll be fine. And I would be happy to approve hand clipping of vines from the coastal bank mitigation plantings so that the homeowners can try and keep these separate. But otherwise, thanks for making all those revisions.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody in the audience? Anybody online? Don't see anybody? Do I hear a motion to accept with conditions?
So moved.
Anybody second?
Second.
Second. Start with Christian.
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And this is Flintlock. Oops. Okay, moving right along. I think we are. Okay, next one is SC 83-2522, Cape Cod Engineering, excuse me, for RJ Resorts. Beach Resort Owner LLC will start with 1 South Shore Drive, proposed beach management, including raking and nourishment on a coastal beach and land subject to coastal storm flooding. We've talked about this, I believe, twice now. So this is our third visit. So if we could just try to focus on what we needed to improve, that would be great.
Good thinking. Thank you. We're back. Ryan O'Laughlin, Chris Dale, Jeff Streeter from the RJ Resorts. I'm Bob Perry, Cape Cod Engineering, and we just have 2 things to talk with you about, unless you have other things for us. I sent Brittany a note today, just trying to summarize what we're trying to do. The first thing is beach replenishment. We filed the application not because the resorts need beach sand today, but because it makes sense to prepare and try to permit the site for a future condition as a replenishment site, should it be needed. Now, I think if we were asking to have sand approved today, you'd probably agree that some sediment could be added, but that's not what we're doing. And Brittany spoke with me about a trigger. And there's just no specific trigger. What I'm recommending is if the resorts observe their beach being killed by a storm or some series of storm events, and they feel the need for sediment nourishment, they don't have to do the survey, prepare the notice of intent, go through the whole process to get that done, although they can. But what we're recommending is that they update the topographic information, provide at least 2 transects along the beach on each site, bring a sieve sample of the source material, because we've already turned it in for the beach material, and proceed with nourishment based on the staff review, and if the staff determines you need to see it, that would be one way to go. And that's what we proposed on the nourishment side, contingency, so that they have it in their back pocket, but we're not trying to skirt any of the procedural things. And if that's difficult to absorb, no one's asking for a blank check, but if it's difficult for you to absorb, I think we would just strike the sediment from the application. So rather than take a question on that, right away. The second item, which is the last item, is kind of a package that relates to a number of activities that some of you discussed with us, but it's primarily what we filed the application for, which was beach raking. And that comes right into the rare species habitat of this area that governs any activity that goes on here. And when we met last, I think it was a little confusing because you had a narrative filed with the application. You had a narrative that we updated at Brittany's request that I think you got, but there weren't dates on it. And then there was a beach management plan draft that we submitted that you never got. Hopefully you have that now. But in the interim, 2 weeks, Devin Harrington from Natural Heritage and Endangered Species issued, actually it came from Emily Holt, but it was Devin that did most of the work, issued the Natural Heritage and Endangered Species comment letter and the series of conditions. So I got that Friday, and I don't send you things that are less than a week ahead of the meeting, but I did drop into the office, I think it was Tuesday, to talk with Brittany. And we have a very slight revision to the beach management plan that you do have, and that was to fix some typographical errors, put the file number on it, and to add a little more detail about the procedural things if nourishment was desired or required or necessary. And all it does is it specifies topographic update, sieve test submittal for source material, meeting with the conservation staff, and any normal procedural requirements like monitoring, follow-up photography that would normally accompany any beach nourishment project. That can be added to the order of conditions now. So this beach management plan that we gave you, sent you, that is now 2 copies, one for Red Jacket, one for Blue Water, but I believe we're on Blue Water right now. It has baked into it 2 documents, which are the guidelines for managing for recreational use of beaches to protect piping plovers. It's a write-up from 1993. And the list of conditions issued on March 27th, 2026, with the reference numbers for the NHESP file number. Both of those documents are available to the resort staff. The NHESP conditions are to be baked into the order of conditions. And it's not full plagiarism, but Devin's guidance to us over the past several weeks kind of mirrors her conditions. And we put those conditions into our beach and management plan, as well as referenced her document and the guidelines. And we're basically saying if there's any difference between the management plan and the guidelines rule as written. So,
I'm sorry, where do you say that? Where do you say that?
oh, it says on the copy I have in my hand, it says Mass Division, it lists the documents. It says where the terms of the beach management plan differ from the guidelines shall apply. And I did send this to Brittany today, but it's not fair to give you this the day of the public meeting. I can appreciate what it's like. We have, 9 projects? It's a lot, and we don't want to flood you. I just want you to trust us that we're engaging with your staff, and I think it's a sound management plan because everything hinges on the contract that the resorts have with Mass Audubon sanctioned bird monitor. And they have to comport with that. And as long as they have this, they have an order of conditions that basically addresses the beach raking, which was the thing that we proposed, but there's every other beach activity out there. People playing volleyball, people sitting in beach chairs, people going swimming. But that's not realistic to list all of those activities in a notice of intent. And so that's where we are. we feel like we're ready to have the vote for beach raking, which is going to be severely limited. Just has to comply with Mass Natural Heritage. And if you are accepting of a contingency circumstance where the beach is permitted for nourishment, replenishment, but that the details of that cannot possibly be known today. And while I'm on that subject, let me just say this. Natural Heritage manages to, I think they limit your beach slope to a 10% grade if you're going to put lots and lots of nourishment in here. We will never come close to that, because if you come back 100 feet, you go up 10, and it's just not realistic. What I would envision is with the 1,000 yards that was proposed in each notice, you could envision, just stylized, a 75-foot length of beach from the water inland, raised 3 feet for 300 feet. That's approximately 1,000 cubic yards. And I don't think we're going to get there, but if a hurricane came in and it destroyed this beach, and there was a sand source that was suitable for them and suitable to you, the site would be permitted for recovering the beach. And that's what we were asking for. So
So to be clear, you're asking for two things, and the first one is really being prepared for the worst.
Yep.
Okay, and the second one is breaking.
beach raking, and there's a caveat that when the organization came in with Blue Water for that 12 by 12 deck, there was a mandate from NHESB that a beach management plan be formulated and reviewed. I think there was 6 months, but we're ahead of the 6 months. And we sent that to Devon Harrington at NHESB, and I didn't get any negative feedback on it. And that's what you have most of. And we made typographical changes here. And
Any questions?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so if I'm understanding, you have a beach raking plan there that you've made some adjustments to, is that correct?
as directed by NHESP.
I know, but you just acquired that,
Yes,
and we haven't seen it.
I think you should have.
Did we? I have,
Wait a second. Those comments from NHESP were delivered on Friday.
We've seen NHESP comment, yes, if that's what you're
There's-
referring to.
There's no difference between what we're doing and what they're requiring.
okay, all right.
Let's
so-
talk about this March 26th beach management plan, because that's what they have.
We have March 30, even though, and I sent this to you today, but
Today, Bob.
I wouldn't do that. And when I did send it to Brittany, I said, this is not for you to give your committee tonight. It's not fair.
Okay, so, I mean, let's talk about
We
this.
didn't get our NHESP comments until Friday.
But you're not required to incorporate them. I can always add them to the special conditions.
Love it.
So let's just talk about the March 26th beach management plan. If there's anything you want to add to the conditions that's not in here, we'll talk about that.
So we're okay then with this, even though we haven't really received it, we can vote on it.
It doesn't seem like the changes were substantive, right?
No, they weren't. The
Okay.
changes, as I said earlier, were
Still, we're voting
typographic,
March
a couple of
26th.
reference file numbers, and we put more details in about the procedural things for how the beach nourishment would be managed symbiotically with your staff.
Could I ask one question about page 4? One of the bulleted items is rack and seaweed handling. Is it appropriate, Brittany, to remove rack and seaweed in the cleaning of the beach? Or, I thought that was kind of...
Yeah, so in our conditions for beach raking, NHESP allows a portion of it to be removed, but we require it remain on the regular high tide line. So if there's any rack above the daily high tide line, like storm tides, moon tides, you can take that rack off, but the regular rack remains completely, not
And-
partially,
And just so you know,
in the special conditions.
that's a good topic you raised, because the change that I made to that in this March 30, that it says rack and seaweed resulting from a raking event is the only material that would be removed. Because if you read what you have, you think all rack material would be removed. And that's not the case, because we can't do that. So those are the little things that were based on Devon's communication on Friday, that we've tweaked the management plan so that it's better. So So we're not removing all seaweed, we're only removing the seaweed from a raking event.
In essence, even though we didn't get this new piece, from what I'm understanding from Brittany, is we can approve it with Brittany.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying we vote on the one we have and ignore the new one until we just add it to the special conditions. You can't vote on something you've never seen.
Right.
So let's just talk about this
You could
one.
vote contingent upon receipt of an acceptable modification of it, if you don't mind doing that, because otherwise we'll come back in 2 weeks if we want to do that.
I don't think there's anything wrong with the March 26th one. Well,
Oh.
but let's see if anyone has comments about that first.
Can I ask one other question? On page 3, fireworks, okay? Do you typically have fireworks during the summer?
We do not.
Okay, all right.
NHESP says the word should not, and I believe our says shall not.
Yeah.
Shall be prohibited.
It says something about, I'm just gonna, USFWS guidelines for managing fireworks in the vicinity of piping plover and sea beach amaranth on the U.S. Atlantic coast. I guess I'm just a little confused. So you don't allow it anyway? You don't allow anything like that?
My understanding, same for pets, unleashed dogs. And I think that you're reading something that's generic for, municipal, although I guess it would apply to anybody.
Yeah, okay. All right. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Just a couple small ones on your mitigation, south, on the red jacket, and movable platforms are not in the list. You may think it is, but I would like to see it specifically in.
Are we doing both of these simultaneously? Because they're very similar. Did you open both?
No, I only opened up.
We're on one,
I
South
only
Shore
opened
Drive.
up the first one.
We didn't put a platform, we didn't put a platform in on Red Jacket because I don't believe there is one.
Okay. So that, when the next one comes up.
Right, that's there.
Division,
But we're not on the next one.
okay. Well,
One shore, one South Shore, if you would.
So,
Just not to belabor, but for example, the revision that I have, and I think it was something, I don't know if you're going to see it in there, but I think you should see it, is that the vehicle we're speaking about is a tractor, mid-size, rubber-tired tractor.
Right, I think you can have the size of the rubber tire. Bradford?
yeah, so in relation to this rack removal, it also said determined by health and safety concerns. I was wondering who determines those health and safety concerns.
The Director of Health. So that's in our regular beach rules, but we'll always add it to the special conditions for beach raking. It's as determined by the Director of Health.
Okay.
So they can't claim a safety hazard if none exists. They have to request that it be evaluated, and he'll come, or they, because it's vacant currently, will come out and do an inspection.
Okay, cool.
Smell test.
Low tide. I'm confused on the nourishment aspect because I have several questions, but I'm unclear if we're voting on that.
You want to ask any of those?
Sure. What is the footprint? Is the 1,000 cubic yards annually or through the life of the permit? And does that include the dune areas?
Does that what?
Include the dune areas?
Okay, great question. The nourishment is based upon a condition that doesn't exist yet. And so we would not be burying vegetation. So let's say an unvegetated dune might be eligible, but for nourishment, a vegetated dune, no. And a footprint of nourishment would be the zone, which I'm going to presume for a moment that if this condition comes home to visit, it would be the breadth of the beach from east to west, unless there was an undulation of the beach and we wanted to make it more less undulating. So I realized the difficulty here was trying to describe a future condition and memorialize it, and you can't do that. So I've got beach nourishment projects where the site is permitted for disposal because it's often dredge material. And the beach condition, at the time the material is spewed and delivered, is only known just before you do it. So I don't have anything specific except it's the hatched area on the plan wherever needed or chosen or selected.
Which would be limited from 15 feet seaward of all dunes. It looks like to elevation 3, so not below mean high water.
We're not filling Nantucket Sound on this.
And in
And the
the
third thing
past-
you mentioned, also, it's up to you, but it's per event. There's no magic number. 1,000 yards seemed to be realistic. If there was a need to protect the seawall, to buffer wave action because the sediment was gone. But when we do beach nourishment, it's always sanctioned by a staff review, but I've looked upon beach nourishment as consecutive. You can qualify that if you
It
need
would
to.
be clear you wouldn't do any work without talking to,
It's absolutely true.
I just want to make sure that's clear to everybody. It's not a carte blanche, go ahead and do it because we voted for it. She still has to get approval from Brittany or Joe or whoever's in the job.
So we, as a commission, are giving carte blanche for the staff to determine?
You can do,
Well,
I would be, yeah, in the past, I think if he says 1,000, the survey says 3,000, you can right now put a special condition, maximum 1,000 cubic yards. The lifetime of the permit realistically 3 years plus a couple of extensions. It would be 9 years, very, very maximum. If you want, you can limit how many times they could do the nourishment, maybe twice or 3 times if you expect that it's too much for you to approve initially now. You can also require that they come back for a public hearing at the time of nourishment. I think that's the best option so that you get to see the survey data and the cubic yards needed and the sieve analysis, and it's not just staff. And that would give them, a 2-week window instead of however long it takes to prepare a notice of intent, which could be 6 months. So that's what I would probably recommend, approval of the nourishment with presence at a public hearing first.
I'm good with that.
That would be a special condition.
Sounds good.
Then I also just wanted,
Fine with that, because that's consistent with what I would expect.
I also just wanted to make a note that we don't normally share public, the specific location of plover nests publicly. I see that it was included in the beach management plan, so it is a public document. Normally, we would take out the specific marker.
You mean the refuge area that's indicated in the photo?
You
Yeah.
keep the refuge area, but remove the nest location.
So we should revise that and resubmit, or do you want me to?
It's already
delete it-
public,
delete
so
it now?
it's is what it is, but
You have to keep everything?
I can take it out now. It depends on how many people have already seen it, but it was last year's data, right?
Correct.
yeah.
But still there.
Natural Heritage usually asks that nests not be shared specifically.
Delete page 5.
Okay, you go ahead.
I just a few quick things. First, document control, would you please put prepared by the beach management plan? It doesn't say who prepared it. That would be, and thank you for not submitting the narrative again, sorry. But I just want to point out that it's really important what you say in the first general comment about an annual preseason meeting, and a lot of your trigger dates, of course, start April 1st. So could I suggest that we insert possibly an annual preseason meeting will be conducted prior April 1?
Yeah.
just because that's really the kickoff of all this. And then, lost my train of thought here, but that's probably a good thing. I know we're not supposed to see it, but you did mention the prioritization of the documents and one governs over the other. What was that again? Because we could add it to the special conditions if it relates to the March 26th
Okay, so
document.
we have two things. With the list of conditions from NHESP, we also have
Correct.
the guidelines, which are the guidelines for managing the recreational use of beaches to protect piping plovers, terns, and their habitats
Yep.
in Massachusetts. Now,
You got that? and you got
NHESP is relying upon that, and they reference that in their document. And I'm simply saying, just because we're doing our best to interpret, and if there is a difference somewhere
Yep.
in this beach management plan
Yeah,
that deviates
yep,
from the guidelines,
yep,
the guidelines rule
okay.
or apply.
We might want to just do that now, say that now. That would make this,
Special condition,
yeah, make that a special condition. Yeah.
no deviations.
And I think if there's any concern about anything that document in front of you shows, we're really, again, it's very important here that, it's very important what this first statement says, because you say, any maintenance or recreational activity not specifically addressed in this plan shall be discussed and at the discretion of the conservation agent, I assume that's Brittany, may necessitate a written request for approval by the Conservation Commission. So you can't cover everything in this document. And that's why that meeting is really important, and then it is subject to review by Brittany on whether or not anything else has to come before us. Or
put it in
we
there.
could be here forever,
Right,
because there
no,
will be things that
it's
come
a
up.
lot. I think Bradford was the one that said there's a lot of activities, and we said,
Yeah.
well, yes.
Yeah.
But we're here to propose beach raking, and we're wrapping a lot of other things into it
Yeah,
that are ongoing and have been for the last 80 years.
yeah. All right.
Just minor, but, and I don't know where it appears in all the documents, but on the one I have, division. What's that, Massachusetts, I presume?
Oh, the
It's the-
Division of
yeah.
Fisheries and Wildlife.
So you need to spell it out at the top. It isn't on any of my documents.
Yeah, okay. Well, I do in the revision. I have a Mass Division of Fisheries and Wildlife, NSPE, file number 25, yabba. We're good. You're going to like this one.
Oh, no.
But I haven't seen it.
Yeah,
I know you have it, but it's just got clarity.
Do you
It's
have
not-
a-
We're not
yes.
changing the
To vote
terms.
on it before we have a chance to see it, so.
Well, we were in a compressed situation where we were still working with
I'm
natural
just saying, you
heritage.
said we're gonna like it, but it's gonna be too late at that point.
Stop talking.
All these, he's just coming back at you. Rightfully so.
Anybody else? Brittany, you have anything else you want to add?
Yeah, two quick questions. Disposal site in mind for the seaweed. And are we,
Same as at Red Jacket Beach that we have in the year.
so the compost area in there on the beach, and then where does it get taken? If it's just,
S&J.
okay. All right. And I don't think I saw, but we'll probably be consistent with all of our other raking permits and maximize at once a week for raking. Did you have another schedule in mind? Because I didn't see any. Okay. Once a week raking. So at this point, I would probably recommend the commission either vote on the plans that we have with the revisions requested, and that maybe Bob can provide a redlined copy of the March 26th with the changes to reflect all the things that the commission have asked, which are pretty minor right now. So prior to April 1 for the on-site meeting, adding the division clarification. You can add some of the details to the nourishment that you had in today's version, no deviation from the guidelines, and I think that's it. If those are the only items in there, plus some additional details that are non-problematic, you can either vote on everything you've asked for, so it would be the same as voting pending a copy of the revised plan showing everything we've discussed, or you can continue.
What about the 1,000 feet that we were going to limit to that? Did you say that?
That's an option, but you also requested attendance at a public hearing first, so you could just decide then.
Okay. Anybody in the audience? Anybody online? Okay, so is people clear, if, do people want to vote, accepting with all those conditions? Bradford, you okay with that? Okay, so can I hear a motion to accept with special conditions?
Pending a revised plan.
Pending a revised plan.
I have a question, if I might. The 1,000 cubic yards, this is a 3-year permit, and you
I
have
don't think
enough.
they decided to include that.
No, they'd have to come back to us, you
Yeah,
said.
so presence at a public
Any
hearing.
extension requires a
Yeah.
formal letter and a revisit, and we would come back and speak with you about that. And so the likelihood of needing 1,000 in the next 3 years is low.
But maybe after, yeah.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
Nobody else seems to be eager.
Okay, the enthusiasm is overwhelming. Anybody second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Christian, you want to vote, please?
Aye.
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 Nay.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so that is just first one. And these are together, Brittany?
There's 2 separate signature pages.
But I can wait to do both.
Yeah.
You could what?
Wait to send both down? You want me to send the first, do the first one? Okay. All right, hopefully the second one is less time-consuming. SE 83-2523, Cape Cod Engineering for RJ Resorts, Blue Water Resort Owner LLC, 291-301 and 327 South Shore Drive, proposed beach management including raking and nourishment on a coastal bank in land subject to coastal storm flowage.
The only difference,
Differences?
I'll just introduce again, I've got the RJ Resort folks here.
But you said nay.
It's fine, you can still sign it.
Very for the applicant. The only difference is that there is mention of transporting the 12 by 12 deck. And there is no specific compost area on this site. When rack material is removed, it's taken off site. There's much less vegetated dune, except on the western boundary. We also provided a couple of plans to Brittany last week showing what I thought you were asking for, which was the location of an extra transect that would be studied when topographic information is updated. In some long chance that there would be beach nourishment going on. So that's it. There's no difference between these beach management plans or the circumstances on the ground, except for those 2 things.
Any questions?
I would like to add, I guess, to the special conditions, that the moving of the temporary deck be coordinated with the shorebird monitor if there are unfledged chicks present. It did not specify that.
I think it's generally covered in motorized equipment.
It was intended to be, but I, you know, from our perspective, there's only 2 things that a vehicle is used for, so we assumed it was understood, but I have no problem adding that, not at all.
Okay. Anybody else? Anybody, Brittany, you're next.
No,
Nothing?
I guess same thing I said for the other one.
Ditto.
Yes.
Anybody in the audience? Okay. So can I hear a motion to accept with special conditions? And do we need a revised plan for this one too?
I would imagine.
Yeah, send a revised plan.
Do it again.
You're gonna accept? I mean, you're gonna make the motion?
Oh, yeah, I'll move that we
It
approve.
did already.
You would? This is a ditto, basically,
You're
right?
seconding.
Yeah, okay.
He already moved.
Right, I second. Same conditions as the prior one, though,
All right.
right? Yeah.
Okay, Christian, vote please.
Aye.
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 Nay.
Aye.
guess that's it.
Appropriate to ask for the reason for the nay, or is that just,
We don't need that.
wanna do that? Okay.
No.
I always try to satisfy everybody, but sometimes it's not possible.
The big issue is, it's April 2nd, so when's the meeting?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Pardon?
It's April
You wanna
2nd.
schedule the preseason meeting. No, you can't do it because you have to wait for the appeal period and record the permit.
I
So
get it.
I'll do my best to get this to you
Okay,
next week.
thank you.
Please come pick it up so it doesn't spend unnecessary time in the mail.
We do that a lot. Well, thank you for your enthusiasm. Spent some time on it, and you showed us a few things, so I appreciate it.
Okay, our next order of business is notice of intent without a number, right, Brittany? Cape Cod Engineering for Dewey and Margaret Allwood. 921 Great Island Road, proposed new revetment on coastal bank, coastal beach, and land subject to coastal storm flowage. Good news is they asked for a continuation. So can I, 2-week continuation, can I hear a motion? So move, Paul.
What date?
What is 2 weeks from now?
Just to 2 weeks. Okay.
April 16th.
I move that we continue this to April 16th.
Okay. Paul will second.
Second, yeah.
Aye.
Okay, next, Christian?
He said
Aye.
aye.
Oh, he said,
Aye.
sorry, I didn't hear you.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay, that was a fun one. Okay. Next one is SE 83-2528. EFC Group for Robert and Maureen Kelly, 146 Mayflower Terrace, proposed deck expansion in the buffer zones to a salt marsh and coastal bank. And get to my notes. Okay. We're ready for you.
Mr. Chairman, members, for the record, my name is Kieran Healy. I'm a land surveyor with the BSC Group, representing Mr. and Mrs. Kelly, and also in the audience is Mr. Kelly, and also is Keith Guire, the builder at this particular property. What we're looking to do is to remove the existing deck that's at the rear of the house and to allow the new deck to go from side to side with a stairway that allows it to get down from the first floor to the walkout level down below. It's an increase of 217 square feet in the 0 to 35-foot buffer, and as a result, we're offering mitigation of a 5-to-1 ratio to enhance the entire top of the existing bank that's out there. You see on our plan, we proposed a straw wattle line along the edges, and the project itself is just pretty straightforward, removing a deck and increasing the size a little bit for the stairway down to the water. As I mentioned, there's no other work associated with this permit. Everything else has been previously approved. A few years back, we were in front of you for the pier, which has been previously permitted. Other than that, I'd be glad to answer any questions that you may have.
Anybody have any questions?
I'm a little confused on, is it the whole deck or just a portion of the deck? Because we have an existing conditions plan that doesn't show a deck. Existing conditions 4-25.
Well, when was the survey done for this existing conditions plan? Or two? Yeah, sorry. The deck was demolished, but it was existing permitted before they started the work on the house. So they've done work on the property to elevate the house under improved permit, but they had to remove the deck, but it was existing previously and previously to the existing conditions plan.
Okay.
Do we have?
Working on this property for years, so when we did our original plan out here, the deck was there, but at the time of the existing conditions for the pier, when I put my stamp on the plan, it's as of that date to the best of my ability, so at that particular time, the deck had been removed for construction on the building itself.
Okay.
I think we have enough evidence that the deck was there existing lawfully as a deck I understand that's an interesting situation, but it was
Okay.
existing.
Okay. I was very confused
Yeah,
on
that's fair.
and then my only other note was that the buffer disturbance table doesn't quite match what we have in our format. It doesn't have the 0 to 35, but I understand you're not doing anything there, so it doesn't really make a difference.
Anybody else?
Can we notate that on the, I'm sorry, just to amend, to add to what Bradford, could we notate that on the documents though? Just because that is very misleading. It says existing deck equals 194 square feet. You've got to have some kind of asterisk or something that says at the, like we've had before where it references the permit number or something. Otherwise it's, we're all looking for a deck at 194 square feet.
I can see what else we have,
We
but
must have something,
my
some
original-
documentation that
My
says,
original doc plan from a few years ago probably has that.
okay.
Just-
Oh, yes.
if we correlate back to that.
Yes, it's on this plan.
So that's my plan from a few years ago,
Yeah.
and that shows it.
Yeah,
I can reference that.
yeah, just so you don't think you've had too much alcohol when you go on a site visit and you don't see, it's a joke, forget it.
We don't have any alcohol when we go on our site
Site
visit.
visit.
It's a good idea,
Don't
though.
make sure you're awake.
I'd start going on them if there was.
I know, right, it would go the other way.
So technically, if I understand this right, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Brittany, this is a variance, but the planting plan is good to go. Would you say that's?
The work is technically within the 0 to 35 of the coastal bank. The coastal bank is just happens to be located in a very landward location, but I would argue that the overall benefit of a 12-foot vegetated buffer, where none currently exists, is an overwhelming benefit for a permeable deck that's elevated to the first floor. So I think this project is an improvement over the current conditions, and they've been working with us extensively to make sure that everything is approvable.
Okey dokey.
Yeah. Tell me what this means in relationship to what you just said. We're on, what, third, fourth page? You're talking about 50-foot, that's 602, part 602, and it talks about where a 50-foot undisturbed buffer zone does not exist prior to, and it goes on. And a footnote, or one of the elements is, if structures or hardscape already exist within the 35 to 50-foot buffer, then additional structures or hardscape may not be allowed within the 100-foot buffer until the 50-foot buffer and its vegetation have been fully restored. And that does not meet that, does that?
It says may, so it's up to the commission's discretion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's
But they are vegetating the 35 to the extent
35.
practicable.
That's why we will use the 5-to-1 multiplier, because of that situation, to enhance it that little bit more.
Well, but it's still a variance from this statement.
100%, we need a variance for work within the 0 to 25
And-
foot buffer.
So, but if you put it up to the 50-foot, then it wouldn't need a variance.
The 50-foot is located near the road.
Okay,
It goes through the house, so there would be,
okay,
the house is in the 35 to 50.
yeah.
It's an unusual situation because basically there's the house, the lawn, and the water. There's no buffers in
Yeah,
between,
yeah.
so this will definitely enhance that.
Anybody else?
I just want to comment, I think you're doing a wonderful job out there. That's a nice house, you know, so. It looks like you're improving the property, and, yeah, it was nice to see.
Brittany, you have anything else?
My only comment would be that there was 2 trees approved under an RDA a couple years ago that I'll likely add to the special conditions to make sure we account for those when we issue the COC. And I think the silt fence is fine where you have it now. I don't know when you intended on doing the deck work, probably simultaneously with the current work as soon as it's approved, right? I'm comfortable with where the silt fence is now. If you wanted to just put the straw wattle anywhere where there's gaps in the wall, I think on this corner, and then over on this corner, I think the wall is kind of extensive to put the wattle down there if we're just doing plantings. Flexible on that. And that's all. Your neighbor did respond. So thank you.
On the float?
Yes, yeah, the float has washed up in his little, in the, oops. I don't know where this is. What would you call this? A boat ramp? I don't know. There's a kind of a boat ramp down there, and the neighbor didn't take his float out over the winter, so it's on the salt marsh right now. It is past April 1st now, but he's agreed to move it for the next seasons and store it in the regular upland location.
Another reason to get rid of to move your float in the season.
Yeah, so I would recommend issuance of this with special conditions.
Okay, do I hear a motion to special conditions? Anybody motion?
Yeah, I'll make the motion.
Motion to,
I'll second.
To
accept.
with
Approve.
special conditions? Did you get the two people, Paul and Bradford? Okay, we'll start with Christian.
Aye.
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 Sorry. Aye.
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 Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members. Thank you, Brittany.
Sorry it took so long to get to you, but someone has to be last, right? All right, next one is, where's my list? SE 83-2270 BSC Group for Channel Point LLC to Channel Point Drive, and this is a continued request for certificate of compliance, and
do you want to speak or do you want me to first?
Well, I'll just introduce myself again, Kieran Healy for the record with BSC Group. Also with me is Paul Mancuso, who's a wetland scientist, who'll be actually making the presentation tonight. But please go ahead, Brittany.
Okay, so this was just continued to a later date, hopefully to observe some growth on the coastal bank, which was a little bit unstable and not fully vegetated, which was part of the original purpose of the permit. They did provide an invasive species management plan to handle some of the invasive species present on the bank that are adding to the erosion issue. But we have not had any growth, so we can't really see anything on the bank to help make a decision for this. So I'm happy to hear what you guys have to say.
Paul, please go ahead.
Hey, this is Paul Mancuso from the BSC Group. Can you hear me clearly?
Yep.
So, yeah, Brittany, we had submitted the invasive species management plan for this hearing. You and I had some correspondence about the COC submittal, and I had asked to be continued until the first hearing in May, which I thought we had agreed on, but then I was away on vacation, and you and Matt had some more correspondence and set up this hearing, which we thought was more to discuss the invasive species management plan and get that on record, because that was missing and required by the previous COC that was issued. And we do have some additional files for the COC request, the invoice showing that the bank was planted with salt marsh grasses, Spartina, and as well to the spec sheet for the fiber roll that's on the bank that is biodegradable. But so we thought we were just coming to this hearing to discuss the invasive species management plan and hopefully get that approved. And then at the May hearing, we would have the additional materials to you to discuss the COC, because it's been planted twice, and the bank was destabilized because of invasive species management that was done years ago. I want to say back around 2015, and so then we filed the notice to stabilize the bank, and we've tried multiple times planting it and it hasn't worked. But I thought we were here more to discuss just the invasive species management plan for tonight and discuss everything else at the later date, because we haven't given you the additional materials for that.
Yeah, that's fine. I just Go ahead.
So for the invasive species management plan, we were there the other week. The species present on the bank, there's some Phragmites, there is Japanese knotweed and Oriental bittersweet vine. The Phragmites, there's also a stand kind of extending from their neighbor's yard, so they have a dense stand right up against the property line, so it's going to be very hard to eradicate that entirely. But the plan is to apply a glyphosate treatment once a year towards the end of the summer in the August-September timeframe for 3 years. And the following spring, we will do a site visit to evaluate the success of the previous year's treatment and to determine the scope of work going forward. The treatments would be done by a certified chemical handler and would be using a glyphosate that is safe for aquatic sites. I don't know if you guys have any questions about the invasive species management plan, but I'd be happy to answer them.
So we're proposing additional work through 2028. Are you hoping to get this approved under the existing permit, which is valid until 2029, or are you asking for us to consider the COC and consider this as ongoing work as part of ongoing conditions?
I guess the second one you mentioned there, consider the COC and have this be ongoing conditions with required invasive species management and for 3 years through 2028.
Okay.
But yeah, we were more presenting this plan to you to get if you had any comments, and then I guess maybe everything could be sort of finalized at the hearing in May when we have everything else to you. I'm not sure how you want to go about it, but we wanted to get this to you because we didn't realize that the previous COC for a prior project required this, so it had been sitting there sort of unaddressed.
I have no issues. Did anyone get the chance to review this? I know COCs sometimes get. I have no issues with the invasive species management plan, though I am not sure if the stability of the bank will be in a state where we can issue the COC after we're able to evaluate it. I don't know how the commission wants to proceed on this particular item because the entire point of the notice of intent was to reach stability. They have attempted several times to plant the bank, but it has not succeeded. The bank these photos aren't excellent, sorry. There is bare soil. There are invasive species. There might be additional bare soil while the invasives are being managed. Are we planting, after the invasive species are managed, is there going to be some additional plug planting, or are we just hoping it'll recolonize itself?
I mean, our clients planted it twice. I think the first time it was mostly just beach grass. The second time we adjusted the plan and added Spartina grasses. Or there might have been Spartina the first time. I don't have that invoice. I'm not certain, but it's been planted twice with very large scale planting, and they just haven't taken. I'm not sure what the area is, but it's been doing it a third time. I would expect sort of the same result. I'm not sure what else they could try at this point for that area. I mean, I would say, I mean, it's hard to say, but a good portion of the bank is very fully vegetated with no space in between. There's just those areas that got destabilized when they did the invasive species management prior. It just doesn't seem to make sense to continue doing the same thing and expecting a different result.
Yeah, that's the only reason why I would be hesitant for the commission to issue a COC is that there's no adaptive management going on, and not all permits are 100% successful, but a certificate of compliance is saying you're in compliance with the plans, and I don't know if this is, though they did give it a good effort. Monitoring reports were never submitted, and I don't know, it might be better to leave it open for the extent you requested an extension, and now it's open till 2029. So it may not be the time for COC just yet.
We need clarity on the sequence then? I mean, what is the sequence?
What's the next step? That's what we were going to discuss after we could see if anything grew in a bit better during the growing season, but this is just from January, so I don't expect a lot has changed since then.
It seems to me because of the extension, if the order is open until 2029, that gives the homeowner more flexibility to resolve the issue than if we were to issue a COC right now and allow these practices until 2028. You get one more year out of the permit that way. It would also allow, if this really is not working, to allow for an amendment to that open order. If we close it now, or I guess in a month from now, it limits the ability to come back and resolve the issue if it's not working. That's just my opinion.
I think that makes sense to me, to keep it open.
Well, they keep it open because it's not working now, need more time to work on it? Is that what you're basically saying? And the other side of it is it's not working, so maybe some other approach should be taken under another permit or something like that?
No, we would just still do the same permit. I think what they're wanting to do is it's not working, so they want to give up and not do any more work, not have any more work mandated by the commission.
Just leave it like it is? Oh.
Yeah, because they've tried twice, like Paul said. They've already given it 2 attempts, but it doesn't appear that it was monitored, or I don't know, obviously. But I would agree that leaving it open may be more beneficial to give them another chance to even just look at it, see it how it's doing. You have the open permit for herbicide application, and maybe if they can add something else or decide to change something, there's the opportunity to, instead of just closing it.
Did the invasive species management prior, did that do damage?
Yes.
Okay, so the one presented tonight, how is that different? I mean, does it talk about access or preventing?
It's essentially the same sort of plan prior to this. I mean, the areas that are destabilized, I believe, were just overrun with invasives, and so by getting rid of the invasives,
Yeah.
there was no vegetation there in those areas, because all the vegetation consisted of invasives, and they've worked to replant these areas multiple times with little to no success. But as I had mentioned, we have other materials that have not been submitted. We can submit the invoices showing exactly what was planted, how much was planted, and all that. But we were sort of expecting this discussion tonight to just be the invasive species management plan. Hopefully get that approved, and then I believe the first hearing in May was the date we had requested. We would have everything else to you guys in advance of that, so you could see it, review it, and then we would have this discussion at that point.
You can certainly request that if
Yeah,
that's
they're
what you
not-
want.
I mean,
yeah.
they're not mutually exclusive. I think they
The
should
only
be looked
problem
at.
I have with the invasive species management plan is that, like just what you said, you're not proposing any replanting. So if you get rid of all the invasive species, it's just going to be bare soil again. So there needs to be some sort of plan for that to have a chance at success. Even if that's just seeding and blanketing, that's a plan.
Yeah. Well, so I agree. Most of the invasives at this point are at the top of the bank. They're not really, obviously, in the areas where nothing is growing. And along the top, they did plant. I mean, this was back, I believe, on the previous notice. They planted along the top of the bank with Seaside Rose, and that's doing well. But the bittersweet vine is sort of growing in amongst that. So by removing the bittersweet, I think those areas will still be stable because there's a good population of the rose growing there. There is a small area of the knotweed, and that's sort of concentrated, so that area probably would be bare and could use some plants. I expect the homeowner might want to put some more rose there because that's would sort of match the rest. And the Phragmites is right next to that. And there, the Phragmites is not a very large area, but it's spreading right from the neighbor's yard where they have a dense stand. And I believe there are other grasses growing in that area, but we could talk to the client, and I bet once those areas are clear, they would be amenable to putting some native roses or something in that area.
Okay, that sounds good. So I would be in favor of approving the invasive species management plan pending the addition of replanting the bare surfaces caused by the management.
Okay, and what about the COC?
And they're requesting to continue. I'm not going to be here for the first meeting in May. Would you be open to the second meeting in May? Otherwise, Joe can, he'll have to
Yeah,
get caught up.
I believe that would be fine.
I too will not be here on the first meeting in May, so
Okay.
no, I don't have a large thing to do with this particular one, so.
Not to kill this with a dead horse, but does the management plan that we were looking, you had it on the screen, does it address access so that we don't do any more destruction or anything to that effect? I mean, you know what I'm trying
it
to
does-
get at? Yeah.
It does not, but all these areas are at the top of the bank, kind of at the edge of the existing lawn, so they don't have to go down the bank to get to these areas, to the areas that are currently bare. So they could probably all be done just from the maintained lawn.
The top of the bank, okay.
Okay, so to be clear, we're voting to accept to approve the invasive species management at this point.
No, with the revision, with the replanting of bare areas
Okay.
resulting. And may as well just, if you're going to revise it, add access those only from the top of the bank.
Yep.
And continue to May 16th is
So
requested.
what will the motion be?
We're going to continue to May 16th.
Yep.
That's the motion.
And approve the invasive species plan pending revisions discussed.
Two things,
Two motions.
two motions.
Two motions.
I
One to
move,
approve the plan subject to the conditions, one to continue the request for the COC till the May 16th meeting.
Let's take the continuation first. Someone make that motion?
I move that we continue this project to May 16th.
Second, somebody? Jack, thank you.
Aye.
Yeah, thank you.
Aye.
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 Aye, okay. And the second is to approve the invasive species
Management plan.
management proposal.
All right, so moved.
So moved,
Second.
second?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay. Am I gonna sign that for this one?
No, you don't sign. That's the COC. We sign nothing.
Sign nothing, okay.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr. Chairman.
you.
Thank you, members.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kieran.
Bed.
Thank you.
Look like the one next to it.
I'm sorry. You'll need to just revise that motion. I was looking at April. It's just May 21st, not May 16th. May 21st.
I move that we continued this to May 21st.
You can just revise it.
2026.
Here.
Thank you.
All right, we next to go to the next movement, the other business, approval of minutes, 3/19/26. I read it, and you read it.
Nope.
So make a motion.
I make a motion to approve.
Second that motion.
That was, Christian,
Aye.
were you there on the,
He observed.
I listened in.
okay, thank you.
Aye.
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 Aye, okay. Reminder of updated regulations with effective date of 4/19/2026. That's all that is, a reminder?
Yep.
Okay, anything you want to say about it?
Nope.
Brittany's going to, Brittany did, I asked for a hard copy of the new regulations. Anybody else want a hard copy?
I'd like one.
So 3 people?
I would like one.
4
4, Christian, okay.
times 4. Okay.
Got that? Community, this is just to know, the Community Preservation Committee annual meeting is April 8th at 3 PM at the Town Hall Hearing Room. Paul is our rep,
Representative,
our astounding rep.
very exciting meeting.
Okay, so he'll take care of everything. If you want to go, that's where it is. Community Biodiversity Initiative and vernal pool assessments, that's you.
This is just an update. The Town of Yarmouth is official project partners for the Community Biodiversity Initiative led by the Dennis Conservation Land Trusts. And we have met our obligation of our agreement so far to submit 3 observations of vernal pools for certification to Natural Heritage. And there are 3 out of the 4 we assessed had enough data to submit for certification, so we're on a good track record so far. Can't get our hopes up because sometimes there's no evidence. But it's been an exciting season so far for vernal pools.
Great.
It's awesome.
Yeah, that's great news.
And last one is the Volunteer for Cleanup Day on April 25th. Sign up is now.
Yeah, sign up anytime before the event.
Okay, and the event begins at
It begins at 8 a.m.
8 a.m.
Volunteer. We'll have a coffee truck for volunteers. Bring a reusable mug.
All right. And that's it?
That's all.
Anybody else here have anything? Nope. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second, okay. Again, I've got to ask, Christian? Aye?
Aye.
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 Aye.